He needs to pay for it.
V8s, V10s,
Hell yeah.
V12s,
Best sounding engine.
even V16s. They're all frickin' awesome. But what about that one engine layout that always seems to miss out when it comes to cars? Where the hell are all the V4s?
In motorbikes!
To take things back to basics, I've got one here and I've stripped it. So to begin with, what is a V4?
You know what's crazy? Is
Why are we watching a car video?
because it's a great video.
Alright. I'm here for it.
What's crazy is bikes are like, their engines are like infinitely better than car engine.
Do you know why?
Yeah, because they got two wheels and they can put it in a line. This video explains it.
Well, let's start with the most famous four-cylinder
They're just highly
engine of
efficient
them all,
because
an
they don't have
inline
the
four.
Emission
It's the most
restrictions.
popular engine layout in the car world. 4 cylinders in a straight line. It's reasonably
Pause it
balanced,
for a
it's
second.
tightly packaged, and they can create
just
good
hit
power
play,
if tuned or
fucker.
boosted.
I know, I actually learned this recently. Is motorbikes are, their components are of higher quality because the overall package is cheaper to produce, and also they're not as harmful CO2 emitters, but they emit worse greenhouse gases. So they produce, I believe, what's the bad one? Nitrogen? There's like a really bad greenhouse gas, which emissions...
I'm pretty sure
from cars.
nitrogen is the most common thing in the atmosphere for us. Like the air is mostly nitrogen.
It sounds about right. But like, I feel like I got nowhere near a coast. I feel like I'm in the center of the universe. But the bikes are greenhouse gas emitters, but don't produce the CO2 that cars produce because the catalytic converters in cars are the things that take out the harmful greenhouse gases that the bikes emit, because they can get away with it because of their light vehicle classification or something like that. It's fascinating. But also just the motorbike tolerances, like putting a motorbike engine in a car wouldn't have the same result that you think it would. They're high tolerance engines, and they need certain amounts of care that car engines just don't, because they're just commercial use, general use engines. It's very interesting. I'm learning more and more and more. Whoa, hill.
Correctly. A V4 takes an inline 4 and splays the cylinders out into a V formation, 2 cylinders on each bank. The angle of the banks depends on the manufacturer. This engine here is a 60-degree V, while Lancia pioneered a narrow angle 20-degree V4 that was tight enough only to have a single cylinder head. In Volkswagen speak, that would be a VR4. Traditionally, the bank angles are 90 degrees. V4 engines are almost exclusively found in the motorbike world, the peak of which being Ducati's 1000cc V4 that they use in their Superleggera V4 bike. This thing revs to 16,500 RPM and puts out 234 brake horsepower. That is a lot of performance for a 1 litre naturally aspirated engine. Google V4 engine bikes and you'll see Ducatis, Aprilias, Yamahas, Hondas, Nortons. The V4 is a well-trodden engine layout in the two-wheeled category. But for us car guys, we don't have much experience with them at all. So what do they sound like?
Fucking awesome. fucking Aprilia.
Not
We're
bad.
the two-stroke
What are
500s.
good things about a V4? Well, it's great for packaging. It's nice, short, and compact. That's because it's only 2 cylinders in length. That also means the crankshaft is nice and short, which means it can take more power. If it was longer, it's more susceptible to twisting under high torque. So being nice and short, you can rev it faster and create more power. The crankcase is also better at managing its airflow, which means there's less pumping losses, which means you convert more power from combustion through to the rear wheels. It's more efficient. The downsides, V4.
Finally have some science.
I just put countertop tiles in the refrigerator.
What?
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You know, I put 2 slabs of granite in my freezer.
Why?
For the rodents, silly.
Oh.
So they're awakened. It's so hot today. It's like almost 90. So, and I don't have my AC in the window yet. So they're up right now. So now that they're up, I took their, because even Bijou was awakened on his tile before. So
Yeah.
So they're eating now, getting their first big meal of the day. And then when they're done eating and ready to relax because it's hot, I'm going to take the tiles out of the freezer.
Give them cold spot.
Yeah, it's like giving them a popsicle, but safe.
Would it condensate as it got hotter? Would that make them wet? Would that be an issue?
Well, it's solid rock, so there's no moisture inside it.
Okay. But it's still like a cold surface, especially from the freezer. It would, as it gets warmer.
It depends on the humidity in the air, I would assume.
Okay. Interesting.
But it's not like, you know, drops of water that would potentially be the amount that forms on a tile isn't that big of a deal.
Turns out I was near a coast. Fuck.
I figured.
Need to produce that settler real quick. But I also already got my campus, so...
Well, those initial techs, you still have to
a custom
research
unit.
those. And also, if you get the Eureka for a tech, you can basically skip researches.
No, that's why I picked him, because that's the thing I was curious about. Like, I instantly got my campus.
Yeah.
So I'm able to build my campus, but it takes 20 turns to research animal husbandry. And there's no Eurekas for those.
Yeah.
So I just need to...
And, like, you need mining, but, like, some of the later techs are not important.
Can be very rattly. Just like a V8, when running, a V4 wants to rock from side to side due to having an innate imbalance within it. But compared to a V8, it's much more rattly. There's much more vibration because there's less cylinders to even out that imbalance when firing. You either put up with that imbalance or you try and engineer it out through a balancing shaft, something that this engine has. Some vibrations that V4s have created in some
my car
racing
was
cars
actually a
have been
V4.
so bad that racing drivers have
My
been
first car,
caught.
What
it was a
it?
Saturn. I want to say it was a V4. Its fuel economy was insane.
Says they never made a V4.
But yeah, it was basically all plastic. Right, it was so
Interesting.
light. So, like, I remember being able to fill a gas tank on a 20, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if it was completely empty, maybe a little more. And then, like, its fuel economy was so good. But, like, it was so scary on the highways because it felt like it felt like there was nothing around you, you know?
Yeah.
And it's,
Oh, interesting.
you know, it was almost like riding a motorcycle. It was so little of a shell.
Yeah. The Porsche 919.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Which
and
is-
losing their
We'll
vision
get there.
while driving
Spoilers.
due to the sheer amount of vibration coming from the engine through their bodies. Now, that engineering team managed to get around it by changing the firing order. We'll get to that car in a bit. It's a bit of a special one. You there, watching this video right now, I just want to say thank you for clicking on it. Making this move, starting my own channel, has been the scariest move of my career, so I massively appreciate the fact you've seen this thumbnail and decided to click on it. Let's get on with the video. This thing doesn't have a V4. Still cool though. Hump. What is this V4 engine then? Well, it's a rarity because it's a V4 that's been made by a car manufacturer. This is the Essex V4 that was developed by Ford. It was developed alongside the Essex V6, pretty legendary engine found in the Mark I Capri. And what's really cool is they were designed
Pause it
to
for
be
a second.
modular, so 2 cylinders at a time.
Do you know how he said that they're easier to fit into engine bays and shit?
God damn it, Japan!
So I'm just going to show you the real difference on a motorbike specifically. So this is the Ducati, which is a V4. And
Oh, poor
notice how
baby.
it's not that thick around the middle. Now have a look at the Yamaha. They are so fucking wide for motorbikes when they're inline fours that the V4 package inside the Ducatis and the Aprilias as well are one of the most comfortable high performance bikes I've ever sat on. But the inline 4 is so fucking wide, and especially on like naked bikes, which are the ones without the fairings, they are even worse for how wide they are because you're not tucked over on the top of the bike, you're sitting on top of it. So your legs end up going like this because the engine's so fucking big. So it's kind of interesting. I wonder why more companies don't do V4s, but the inline 4 is I will leave the fucking game if you continue doing this. So I don't know why that they don't do more V4s, but even Yamaha is developing a V4 now. So like they're kind of moving that way. It's kind of interesting. I don't know why.
Hence why it's really easy to go from 4 to 6. We're taking a quick break from filming and refueling with some Holy. I've been bad in the past at drinking those sugar-filled normal. Something I really like about Holy. Start between the ears. He's loving life. How are we going to do this? Tasty. We've got hydrated.
Oh, that's lovely, that is.
Ration.
I've never even heard of this
First order.
company,
My
which is funny because it's like the traditional energy drink market is already dominated by G Fuel and Gamer Subs. Poor Pishi, he doesn't have his tile.
6v4 saw action in the
I'm
Mark
cooling
I
it down,
Capri
buddy.
2000 GT, the Marcos
He's so
GT,
miserable right
the
now.
Ford Consul, Corsair, Granada, Zephyr Mark IV, and most famously, the Mark I Transit. And it was in the Transit that a big advantage
yeah.
of the V4 came to fruition. By being so short and stumpy compared to an inline 4, the
Stumpy.
design of the front of the van could be flat, rather than needing a big bonnet thrust out the front for a longitudinal inline 4. It's
it
not
sideways.
the most powerful engine in the world. The 1.7 put out 73 brake horsepower, while this, the bigger 2-litre, put
Hey,
out
that's
an
how much
earth-shattering
the R7 puts
92
out.
brake horsepower.
With 2
I say
cylinders.
earth-shattering because these things were notoriously rattly, but that was actually the V6's fault. Let me explain. The ideal bank angle for a V4 is 90 degrees, as that means you can design the crankshaft around cylinders firing every 180 degrees, which gives the engine its best chance of self-balancing. This engine, however, Ford went for 60 degrees. That's not good for a V4. Clearly, Ford prioritized the development of the V6, which does want to sit at 60 degrees for self-balancing. So this V4 had to just put up with it. A V4 wants to be set at 90 degrees for it to accomplish primary balance, and that's why Ducati goes for a 90-degree V4 in its superbikes. It pretty much negates any need for any form of balancing shaft. My little Ford trucker here, however, definitely needs one. It's a rattly little pup. Why are V4s so rare in cars compared to inline 4s? They're both four-cylinder engines, but why are inline 4s so popular and V4s so rare? Well, there are some disadvantages that we haven't spoken about yet. The main disadvantage of a V4 is its complexity versus an inline 4. The second you splay those cylinders out, you have to double up on a lot of components. You have to double up on cylinder heads, which means you have to double up on camshafts, which means you have to double up on exhaust manifolds, and that is all very expensive to develop. We've talked about how good packaging can be with a V4. They can be nice and short, but versus an inline 4, there's still a lot of competition. If you were to mount both engines longitudinally under the bonnet, you're taking up a...
Is there... Alright, we're restarting.
What?
What the fuck? Why would the AI take this for a Pantheon? It is a Pantheon in the game. That's what I thought. Somebody took desert folklore. Probably because they spawned near desert.
That's funny.
That's so fucking annoying.
lot of volume that could be used for mounting ancillaries. An inline 4, on the other hand, keeps it super simple. You've got intake one side, exhaust the other, and loads of alternators, water pumps, whatever you want. Lancia got around it by making the V super narrow angle and only having one cylinder head, but even that wasn't enough to make the V4 a viable solution for a lot of car manufacturers. With all of that in mind, why do bike manufacturers use V4s to this day? Well, as I've said before, when set at 90 degrees, they are in primary balance, which means they have nice, smooth power delivery. That also means you can rev them nice and high without having to worry too much about it shaking itself apart. A good thing on a bike. Also, being only 2 cylinders in length, you can package them really nicely into a much shorter length of chassis compared to an inline 4. And compared to other bike engine layers like a twin or triple, you can get 4 cylinders into roughly the same amount of space, which means you have more potential for power and spread that power over more cylinders. V4 engines in cars then. Ford, Lancia and Saab. That's pretty much it. There is another though. The big boy, the chosen one. One V4 engine to rule them all.
Hey, there's the Porsche.
I'm upset.
The story goes that back in the noughties, Porsche started from complete first principles when designing their new Le Mans car engine. It had to be powerful to compete in the LMP1 class, but it also had to have really good packaging to incorporate a hybrid system, which all the LMP1 cars had at that time. And being a Le Mans car, it had to be fuel efficient. Every good Le Mans car is very good on fuel. After all of this was thrown into some calculations, what was spat out the other side was a V4 engine. And here it is, one of the prettiest engines ever made.
God damn.
Porsche were super clever to get around the intrinsic packaging issues of a V4. That big single Garrett turbo was
Oh my
mounted
God, poor
between the
BG.
banks of the engine, forming a hot V, and the hybrid system was in there too. So you've got power
What
from
the
that
fuck?
big Garrett turbo, you've got great packaging thanks to that hot V, and you've got efficiency because it was only 2 litres in displacement. Bingo! Porsche had created the 919's endurance racing engine, a 500 horsepower V4, by far the most powerful that layout has ever been. And we've got one in this crate.
125
It's
fucking
probably a
horsepower
couple
per
million quid.
cylinder.
It's essentially a
That is
Formula One
nuts.
V4. Sorry. It took 3 victories at Le Mans, battling Audi and Toyota in LMP1, but once it was finished racing, Porsche took it to a whole other level with this, the 919 Evo. No rules or regulations, how fast could the 919 go? The answer? Faster than Formula One. Smashing the lap time at Spa with a 1 minute 41.7, the 919 Evo was 0.7 of a second
Spa?
quicker than Lewis Hamilton's Mercedes F1
What the
car,
fuck?
and a massive 12 seconds quicker than the race spec 919. Then came the all-time record at the Nürburgring, a 5:19, and one of the greatest onboard videos of all time.
Holy
After this
shit.
video, get it watched. Despite being a prototype race car, the 919 is actually the closest we've got to a modern V4 engined car. Because of this thing. Back in 2020, Porsche revealed a whole load of Frankenstein project cars that never saw the light of day, and this was one of them, the 919 Street. This was a road-going version of the 919 that used the 2-litre V4 engine. Now sadly, it's almost certainly a clay model. They never actually made one of these things, but I have talked to the Porsche press team who says there are 2-litre 500 horsepower V4s sitting on shelves back at Porsche HQ, gathering dust. What I would give to have a mooch around those on the shelf and create some content. Heaven. But it's cool. I've got my little Ford. What to do with you? If you like the amount of engine chat in this video, give it a like and subscribe for more content just like this. I've been Mike. What's for you won't go by you, and I'll see you in the next video.
What did he call me? That was a good video.
Hey, look at that autoplay.
Welcome to Democracy
Let's
Now!,
go.
democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. President Trump's escalated his threats against Iran Sunday, posting on Truth Social, quote, "For Iran, the clock is ticking, and they better get moving fast, or there won't be anything left of them," unquote. Ceasefire negotiations remain deadlocked over Iran's demands for war reparations, an end to the U.S. blockade, and a halt to fighting in Lebanon. On Sunday, a drone strike sparked a fire at an electrical generator on the perimeter of the UAE's Baraka nuclear power plant, the first and only nuclear
Like the
power
Mortal
station
Kombat
on the
guy?
Arabian Peninsula. No group claimed responsibility,
nuclear
but the
power?
UAE has faced repeated Iranian drone and missile attacks since the war began in February. Meanwhile, the New York Times reports Israel built 2 covert military outposts in Iraq's western desert in advance of its war against Iran, with preparations for at least one site dating back to late 2024. According to the Wall Street Journal, Baghdad had notified Washington in late March over suspected covert military activity, calling it a violation of Iraqi sovereignty. Israel killed at least 6 people in southern Lebanon, including 3 paramedics Friday, just hours after the U.S. State Department announced Israel and Lebanon had agreed to extend their ceasefire by 45 days, following 2 days of negotiations in Washington.
Eating in the
Israel
outskirts of the
then
hospital and
continued
around it.
strikes into the weekend, killing at least 5 more people while injuring over a dozen in a series of air attacks on southern and eastern Lebanon Sunday.
Wow,
More than
great.
670 people have been killed by Israeli strikes in Lebanon since the ceasefire took effect in mid-April. And the number killed since early March is rapidly approaching 3,000. More than 1 million people, 1 in 5 Lebanese, have been forced to flee their homes. Israel's assassinated Izzeldin al-Haddad, the head of Hamas's military wing, in a strike on a residential building in Gaza City on Friday. Al-Haddad was killed alongside his wife and their 19-year-old daughter. Hamas condemned what it called Israel's, quote, treacherous and cowardly assassination, unquote. Unsaid attacks killed at least 8 Palestinians across the Gaza Strip. 3 victims were community kitchen workers.
I mean, I'm no Israel guy or anything, but I don't think when you're actively in a war, whether it's a genocide or not, like when you kill military leaders, I don't think that's like something you call treacherous, you know? It's kind of silly.
Yeah. It's par for the course.
Yeah.
I'm not going to cry over military commanders.
According to Al Jazeera, Israeli attacks have killed at least 871 Palestinians in Gaza since the so-called ceasefire took effect last year. This is Walaa Baroud, whose brother was killed in an Israeli strike.
Every citizen in the Gaza Strip is at risk of being directly hit by the Israeli occupation at any moment. The occupation makes no distinction between charitable workers, journalists, security personnel, civil defense workers, security forces, emergency responders, or doctors. The Israeli occupation has targeted every segment of the Palestinian people. The Israeli war continues. It has not stopped to this day, and the bloodshed continues and the number of martyrs increase daily.
Israel's cabinets approved plans to build a military compound at the former site of the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian refugees in occupied East Jerusalem. Israel bulldozed UNRWA's headquarters in January after seizing the site last year in an act condemned by the United Nations and governments around the world. Meanwhile, Israeli authorities have forced dozens of Palestinian families from their homes in East Jerusalem's Al Bustan district to make way for a biblical theme park called the King's Garden. The Guardian reports some Palestinians were forced to demolish their own family homes where multiple generations previously lived. Israeli forces have begun intercepting ships with a Gaza-bound humanitarian aid flotilla off the coast of Cyprus. The global Samud flotilla says Israeli military vessels intercepted the fleet in international waters, actions it condemned as illegal acts of piracy. Organizers of the flotilla said Israeli forces had intercepted 17 boats and that contact had been lost with nearly 24 vessels in the eastern Mediterranean. The flotilla had been attempting to breach Israel's maritime blockade of Gaza to deliver humanitarian aid to Palestinians. This is an activist on board one of the aid ships.
We are being intercepted in broad daylight. The occupation forces have no shame whatsoever. They're doing it in front of the whole world because they know that everything they did in the past has been met with full impunity. This means that this is the moment to mobilize as much as we can, to go into the streets and show that the people of the world are against their criminal acts. This is how far they're willing to go to continue their genocide of the Palestinian people.
More than 50 ships with the global Samud flotilla set sail from the Turkish port city of Marmaris last week. Israeli media reported Israel's Navy will transfer the arrested activists to the Israeli port of Ashdod. The World Health Organization has declared a global health emergency due to the rapid spread of Ebola virus in the Democratic Republic of Congo and Uganda. Sunday's announcement came a day after the African Union's public health agency said it confirmed Ebola infections in the DRC's northeastern province of Ituri, where 65 deaths and hundreds of illnesses have been reported. Cases have since been confirmed in Uganda's capital, Kampala, where residents fear a repeat of deadly outbreaks in 2022 and last year.
Like the government to, one, quickly spread awareness about Ebola and how it is spread, to break down this information even for the layest of people to understand, but also start to institute measures to avoid the spread of Ebola in Kampala and Uganda as a whole, so that there is a feeling of safeness, of security against this disease of Ebola.
Louisiana's Republican Senator Bill Cassidy, two-term incumbent, lost his primary after President Trump backed his challenger, Congressmember Julia Letlow. Cassidy is the first GOP senator in nearly a decade to lose renomination. President Trump had vowed revenge against Senator Cassidy after he voted to impeach Trump following the January 6th insurrection.
I don't think he
in
likes
his concession speech Saturday, Senator Cassidy made an apparent reference to Trump, saying, quote, "Our country is not about one individual."
And when you participate in democracy, sometimes it doesn't turn out the way you want it to. But you don't pout, you don't whine, you don't claim the election was stolen, you don't find a reason why.
President Trump endorsed Congressmember Julia Letlow, who finished first in Saturday's primary with 45% of the vote. Louisiana State Treasurer John Fleming came in second with 28%. Both of them advanced to a runoff.
What is going on with that guy's face?
Which ones?
Look at it.
The one at the front?
Is he missing an eye? Or is that just catching him at a wink?
I think that's what's happening. I don't think it's anything further than that.
And State Treasurer John Fleming came in second with 28%.
Look up State Treasurer John Fleming.
And both of them advanced to a runoff in June. President Trump took to Truth Social to celebrate Senator Cassidy's defeat and went after Kentucky's Republican Congressman Thomas Massie, who co-authored the bill compelling the Justice Department to release the Epstein files. Trump wrote, quote, "Tom Massie of Kentucky, the worst and most unreliable Republican congressmember in the history of our country, is an even bigger insult to our nation than Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, who suffered an unprecedented loss tonight by not even being allowed to run in the Republican primary. This is the first time such a thing has ever happened to a sitting U.S. senator." President Trump gloated.
I don't think he understands how runoffs work.
No.
He's not allowed to be in. Actually, this was the primary, sir.
So many geothermal fissures.
What? That's him responding when they tell him it's a runoff. What? Because old guys always got to say, what?
With the H, yes. What? What did you say to me?
Forms released by the U.S. Office of Government Ethics show President Trump made between $220 million and $750 million in trades in the first 3 months of this year, including purchases and sales of securities in companies such as Microsoft, Meta, NVIDIA, Apple, and Goldman Sachs, according to News of the United States. Trump bought between $500,000 and $1 million worth of NVIDIA stock a week before the Commerce Department officially approved the sale of some NVIDIA chips to China. The Trump Organization claims the investments are managed exclusively by third-party financial institutions, and neither Trump, his family, nor the Trump Organization plays any role in investment decisions. In Washington, D.C., thousands of people gathered on the National Mall Sunday for a taxpayer-funded Christian evangelical service backed by President Trump. The 8-hour lineup featured song, prayer, and speeches by government officials, including House Speaker Mike Johnson, who shared the stage with religious leaders Franklin Graham, Cardinal Timothy Dolan, and others. President Trump appeared in a pre-recorded video that was apparently recorded weeks ago at a separate White House event titled America Reads the Bible. Others appearing by video included Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. The Freedom From Religion Foundation blasted the event as an unprecedented and shocking mix of church and state, adding, quote, "Our Constitution is godless by design. The government has no authority to organize religious revivals, much less use them to promote a Christian nationalist agenda," they said. The Supreme Court on Friday turned down an effort by Virginia Democrats to implement a new congressional map, which would have allowed Democrats to gain up to 4 additional seats in the House. The decision, with no dissents, leaves in place a ruling by the Virginia Supreme Court striking down the map. The push to redraw congressional maps began last year when President Trump pressured Republican-led states to come up with new district maps ahead of the midterms. In Alabama, thousands of people joined a rally at the state capitol in Montgomery.
He really is the Andrew Jackson of our time.
Who?
Trump.
Sure. You could make that comparison.
On Saturday, demanding an end to racist gerrymandering by Republican state legislatures in southern states targeting black voters. The National Day of Action came in response to the Supreme Court's April ruling, which gutted Voting Rights Act protections for majority black districts. Saturday's protest began in Selma with a march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, named after the former Confederate officer and Ku Klux Klan leader, which was the site of the historic 1965 Voting Rights March that became known as Bloody Sunday. This is Lakita Smith, an organizer who traveled from New Orleans to join Saturday's march.
Selma has a special place in my heart. I'm a Southern girl, and I believe that suppression of voting rights and what's happening across the South in the United States, it requires all hands on deck.
We'll be joined by Bishop William Barber later in the broadcast. And 5 unions representing more than 3,500 workers for the Long Island Railroad have staged their first strike in more than 30 years, bringing all train service to a halt on North America's largest commuter railroad. The strike follows 3 years of failed contract negotiations. Union leaders say wages haven't kept up with the cost of living and that workers haven't received raises since 2022. More than 250,000 daily riders rely on the service to commute between New York City and Long Island. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report.
The fuck?
Restream. What did you do? I don't understand. You worked perfectly.
Not anymore.
The world we know is being destroyed. War, genocide, ecological and economic crises, the displacement of tens of millions of people, the enslavement of tens of millions more, and it's also the richest people in the world can get richer. They, the rich, realize their actions, this constant ruining of what we love and need and the growing inequality that results, will lead to more discontent, more resistance and rebellion. To contain our anger requires more repression.
You gotta straighten that poster behind you. How am I? Mine get crooked because I bumped into one. Not a sponsor. Oh, look at that.
Your poster.
What an edge.
I have stupid plushies.
Yeah, and it's like, I like it because when he gets cut off, he looks great.
Look, they're not even in the picture, it's fake. Can't touch them, they're not real.
And when you want a population repressed, you can't go wrong with more police. Our rulers will use any excuse, such as the World Cup or the Olympics, to grow police power. Budgets for police and prisons at every level of government all over the world have been rising and squeezing out other services those governments used to pay for. They can't take care of people, but they can put them in cages. Most people have no idea how expansive or international police power is. Sounds like something we should learn about. I'm Chris, and welcome back to the channel that fails to meet all expectations. Me niego a morir en la vía, ni trabajar para la policía, ni andar de cuento, ni andar de tranza para poder llenarme la panza. In my last couple of videos, I described the political, economic, social order that we live under and pointed out the police are in large part responsible for it. They impose and enforce the will of our rulers. If you don't like war, poverty, mass surveillance, mass criminalization, and just gestures vaguely at everything, you have the police to blame as much as anyone. In a world of police, we're forced to follow every law and command, and therefore live under the order chosen for us by our masters. Without police, we could make decisions together, control local economies locally, and provide security for our own communities where needed. I'm planning on making a video to explain the why and the how for this series, but if you can't wait, there's a link in the description. There are all kinds of cops: beat cops, detectives, federal investigators, border police, military police, soldiers,
and they all
spies.
suck.
It's good to know the different mandates and jurisdictions of different types of cops, but they're still cops. You all look the same to me. They all serve as enforcers for the state. It's just that some cops oppress you locally, while others go abroad to oppress people who live on top of valuable resources. And as we'll see, under an empire of cops, the lines demarcating the different types of cop begin to blur. Cops have many ways to multiply their power far beyond what their numbers might imply. Now,
I don't think maybe certain militaries like the IDF and stuff, but like I don't think uh-oh. My power's going in and out. So lights turned off, but I stayed live. How about that? But yeah, I think that the practices of recruitment and roles are so much superior because the army is a type of job that you know sucks, that it's like a burden that you're taking. Nobody's like, I'm going to have fun at the army. They just hope it's not going to be that shitty.
Uni.
Yeah.
I'm here for free uni.
Yeah, you know, like nobody is really signing up for the army because they want to dominate people and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. They wish
not that
was
those
the mentality.
don't exist. I'm just saying, like those people don't join the army; they become cops, and the people who want to do that, who join the army, also come home and become cops.
Yeah.
You know, that doesn't mean that the excuse of ignorance is there for me. You know, I'm not as strict with my doctrine as ISIS. I allow people to be ignorant, right? And I think that joining the army often can be spawned out of ignorance or even necessity.
Sure. Poverty,
and
mostly.
Did I get the tribal village? No.
Which one?
The one I've been trying to loop around to get right here.
I think my scout might have collected it.
I don't know if it was there.
It might have been my scout, because I set him on auto explore.
Does he have a tribal village? Where he is
did
right
just
here?
get one, yeah.
There's 100 units in my way.
Oh, was there?
Yeah,
I mean,
look
like
at all these city
seven
states.
city-states around us.
Exactly. So they're all in the fucking way.
We're going to have to take out some of these city-states.
Well, it does mean that I have really good protection against barbarian raids.
That is true. There's so many between us. That's fucking nuts.
Yeah, I made it so there's going to be a shitload of city-states.
Okay.
But less of the AI. So when it's at the end of the game,
It'll be
something
faster.
can be done about it.
Yeah.
So hopefully it won't be as insane at the end of the game.
Nowadays, a lot of cop activity gets outsourced. Most people have no idea how much, but catch glimpses when we hear military contractors, once known as mercenaries, shot a couple dozen people in Iraq because a car
different.
was driving towards them. Or when Edward Snowden revealed some of the US
God.
and other states' global spying operations while working for a cybersecurity contractor. If you know much about Palantir and what it does, or
A lot of red flags jumping up.
It's fine.
Palantir.
I did pre-watch this video, which is why I've sent it.
Palantir.
All of this sort of is relegated to the front of the video. Because he talks about Cop City and Tortuguita and stuff.
Palantir.
Palantir. Palin.
Isn't this the issue, though?
What?
People who talk like this being involved in Cop City.
Yeah, but like, I mean, we've said it multiple times. Like, you have to compromise and work with people on certain points, and like movements. Like, if they weren't there, I feel like the volume of the protest around Cop City would be far lower without them. But also, this is just such standard, like, leftist mindset that, again, it goes down to ignorance. This guy, I'm not so sure. I feel like it might be just rhetorical. But I don't know. Because, like, I would put that sort of stuff into a script to zhuzh it up a little bit. You know? Because it gets that reaction. Because it is that buzzword. So maybe he's doing it, like, for that reason? I don't know. But from what I watched of this video, it's just the front. Like, it's front-loaded like that. Because he's giving context and, like, this is the premise kind of thing.
I just,
and then he goes into...
like, there's, like... It frustrates me when it's, like... There's certain aspects of something that are silly, and I know that I would not be able to explain to this person why certain things are silly.
You don't think?
No. They just say I was like an imperialist or something.
That is true.
Or just what it did in The Lord of the Rings. You have some idea.
It's hard to get over. Like, to get through to people on that aspect. Because I've been trying to think of ways to get through to them about this, and it's like you pretty much have to just tarnish the reputation of the people that they get their information from to prove that they're, like, serving foreign interests. It's like what I say to all the fake nationalists here in Australia, the One Nation people. I'm like, why are you guys advocating for foreign interests? Like, you claim that you're nationalists.
Like,
be nationalists.
The thing is like, anyone calling me, like, imperialist, it's like, I don't think it's very imperialistic to spend your entire life advocating for Al-Qaeda and ISIS to have fair trials in courts of law.
No, not really.
Like, that's very a statist type of view, but
yeah,
I do not say that there needs to be a state.
I mean, it's
to have
working
a
within
fair
the bounds. Yeah, I mean, it's
Like, a
working
state
within the
is not
bounds
required
of,
for a fair trial.
yes, but like it's working in the bounds of the liberal world order.
Like
So,
in M, the guy is on a public trial by the end, but he still has a
Yes.
fair trial and a right to
Yeah,
defend
yeah, yeah.
himself, and an attorney who believes in his defense. I think that's a really big deal. And if America actually advocated for like the values they pretend to have, well, it wouldn't be very imperialist, would it?
Not exactly.
So it's just like, because I advocate for certain things, America projects like it does, like democracy and freedom, right? If America actually prioritized those things, they wouldn't be imperialistic.
No,
Because
they
you wouldn't be able to function in an imperialistic manner. There would still be elements, you know, because there's plenty of European states that,
Yeah.
you know, like those Nordic states, like they haven't fucking exploited anyone in India and Bangladesh and stuff. Like, of course they have. But if America was what it claimed to be, we would probably already have global supply chain acts because they would have led the way.
Yeah, in theory. All in theory.
How much information corporations and states are gathering about people to use against them. And if you don't, there's a link to a video in the description. If you know about Geo Group or Corrections Corp, you might know that the US outsources a lot of the caging of its criminalized population, and that such facilities are usually even worse than the government-run prisons.
Fucking
and I haven't even mentioned the multi-billion-dollar
city-state
private
unit on
security
top of a
industry,
fucking
which
tribal
conducts
village.
surveillance and guards property, so virtually every commercial building and the area outside it is
This is what you
constantly
wanted.
Security guards are different. Fucking, you know how good of a gig mall security is?
I think he's talking about correctional facility guards.
Oh. Boo!
Like he's talking specifically about the prisons.
Not all cops wear badges, but their job is still to help the state protect corporate property and impose its other policies, if it has any. For years now, I've referred to one empire, an empire of capital and nation states that dominates the planet. It's not multiple competing empires anymore. It's just one. The police exist to hold up this empire, while the ruling class uses it to pick our bones clean. The state you live under might feel like an empire of cops on its own. The police are ever...
This is Jacobinism. This is not new ideology.
What he's professing.
Yeah, this is Jacoba. Like you think about it, right? Like, you have the ruling estate, the first estate, the royalty, right?
Yeah.
Then underneath them, you had the nobles then, but the nobles weren't necessarily wealthy. Are cops necessarily wealthy? And what do the nobles do? They have a slightly higher class, so they protect their class privilege, which ends up protecting the royals. So acknowledging that these classes exist instead of, you know, the bourgeoisie and the haves and haves not. Because that's the thing, is the petite bourgeoisie is part, like Robespierre was bourgeois.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he advocated against him, but ultimately because he was a lawyer and wealthy, that's why he was able to do what he did. But the Jacobinism specifically as an ideology was defined by, like, what would be leftism of that era. There was many types of Jacobinism in many different states.
Yeah.
But this framing that there's the ruling class and the cops that protect it is third estate recognizing that that the people are the third estate, which was what France claimed, right?
Yes.
France claimed to be democratic at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And the third estate was the largest estate, but it did not have...
Much power.
It didn't have the representation.
Mm.
And, you know, for most of time, this was the rulers and the clergy.
Mm.
It's only like with the introduction of capitalism that people were able to come up with enlightenment. Like the era we live in, where we can advocate for this, like getting rid of the three estates. Like, the reason we can do that now is because of capitalism initially.
Yeah. Oh.
That said, there was plenty of cultures that existed around the world at the time that did not function like this.
Mm-hmm. Dude, I just got 3 Eurekas, 2 of them from a tribal village.
Mm.
Got me irrigation and wheel. And then I just bought a water wheel, which it turns out is the reason I couldn't find it is because it's a unique building. So I now have one of those, which gave me construction at turn 30. Which is fucking insane.
Mm-hmm.
Because now I can start getting the bonus resources in woods and shit. So that's fucking crazy.
Oh, this is what you were oh my godding when I was showing you the trailer to Phase 4.
Yeah.
What his bonus does set in.
Yeah. I like this. I feel like I'm going to hit a roadblock at some
on the
point,
street,
though.
in every building, at your door, in your email, in the sky, and at the border, which includes airports, train stations, and wherever lurks the terrifying threat of people born in a different country from me. Cops can't be everywhere all the time, but people who believe in the rules without question, who obey authority because authority says so, or as they call it, respect, become paid or unpaid informants. If someone sees you shoplifting or drinking in public, you don't know if they're gonna narc on you. In fact, some civilians essentially deputize themselves to act as...
It's very funny. Bro said, you don't know if they're gonna narc on you.
Kind of...
Who talks like that anymore?
Kind of promoting a little bit of, like, don't trust people.
Yeah,
like
so that's why I think that some Enlightenment philosophies, such as social contract theory, are inherently good, but just like currency, right? There's exploitation that can be put in there. Like, the only reason that we have Elon Musk with so much money is because we acknowledge the existence of the money. But, like, at the end of the day, it's not there. Now, that's not necessarily true because they have actual assets and, like, things. But currency itself, the value attached to those things, the reason they have that value is because we all agree on that value. And I was thinking about this, right? So, when you don't have interference in a free market, there's not, like, inflation like there is in today's, like, global markets.
Okay.
And the thing I'm going to propose is something that I'm so surprised I've never heard a libertarian say, considering what their ideology is supposed to profound and what they're supposed to prioritize. Okay? A gram of weed, right? If you buy it at the shop, you're buying it from a global market, right? That's different.
Yep.
But the street price of a gram of weed, right? How many times has that price changed in your life?
Never.
It's changed once for me. It used to be $10. Now it's been 20.
Okay, it's always been 20 for me. 20, 30, 50.
So, why, like, I'm sure in certain cities and stuff like that where there really is supply and demand, you can actually have that effect. But if, like, we talk about supply and demand theory, like, how come the price of drugs don't inflate? How come they've stayed the same price for so long? If there's, because it's actual supply and demand theory, because you would think drugs, which people need, you know, because they're addicts, and I'm talking about weed, you know,
Yeah.
in this case, but like obviously with like I don't know the drug markets well enough to tell you other drugs and their inflation price. But weed itself, right? Like any type of drug not getting inflation, even though there's a high demand for it. Like, why doesn't that happen? Why don't drugs have inflation when they're in high demand?
Good question.
Like,
I'm sure some of them do.
would the addict not pay any price?
In theory, yeah. It's all a theory.
So that's also, like, the idea of inflation is so you'll spend the dollars instead of hold on to them. But the people who can actually generate wealth do hold their dollars. Like, it's only for poor people that inflation exists. People who live paycheck to paycheck, that type of inflation where they need to spend exists. And it's like they have no ability. Like, even if there was no inflation, like, these people are still living paycheck to paycheck. How would they acquire a savings to hoard that wealth?
Yeah, exactly.
It's just the idea of inflation in of itself is against capitalism in my mind. Like, it's against a free market.
Interesting.
It doesn't actually stimulate the economy.
Well, I mean,
Like,
those cash
it's not
injections,
devaluing itself fast enough. Like, you still are able to fucking acquire wealth by putting shit in savings accounts. So, like, if it's already doing that, then it's not, the value of the currency is not dropping fast enough for those people to spend the currency, because it's still more profitable for them to hold it.
Yeah.
Like, I just find the idea silly that they figured out that, like, people were holding on to the money instead of spending it, so they had to fucking make it inherently costless. I call bullshit on that ever happening. Show me, libertarian. Show me where it fucking happened, where that exact fucking scenario happened. Just like how they try to fucking say that capitalism's always been around because people exchange commodities.
Yeah. But, like, the cash injections, like the COVID ones, that did stimulate the economy. Like, people just spent the fuck out of that money. Whether
Exactly.
it actually did something.
So, giving people money is what fucking, like, not letting the wealthy hoard the wealth. Like, the entire idea that they try to teach you about. That's why, like, economists always get, like, butt fucked suddenly when, like, Russia is able to develop an economy that maintains itself. They're like, how is this possible? How did the sanctions not just cripple them?
They really have no clue.
They don't, because they all ultimately, like, they all buy in on this delusion, but they all know that it's non-existent. There's nothing like it. It's just fucking wild to me.
It is pretty crazy.
As killer cops to dispose of unruly surplus population. What we need is people who would never inform on others unless they presented a real threat. People who will talk to you first if you're doing something wrong rather than...
You can tell he's not tanky because he's not calling for the fucking Vanguard police to turn in your neighbors.
So I feel like he's an ANCOM.
Well, see, this is
the
inherently
closest.
not Jacobism because Jacobism is all about finding who supports the three estates.
That's why I put this on, because I was so interested by this video that I'm like, we need to watch this on stream. This is interesting.
Calling the police or attacking you because they've forgotten how to talk to people or because they like punishing people. But where you live is a microcosm. The world has become one big police state, with cops, soldiers, and other law enforcement training and working together across borders. This white supremacist, capitalist, patriarchal system of rule has spent hundreds of years spreading to every corner of the globe. It came first on the backs of empires
that I
and then
haven't
through
got
the rulers of the post-colonial
available
state,
yet. Like,
with
if I was to
their
build
own
an
soldiers and
aqueduct, would I
police,
instantly get
often
NIDA?
trained by the old empire or else the US. Laws and institutions vary with time and place, but the basics stay the same. The purpose is always
it's
to
an
divide
industrial
and rule.
wonder.
The old movie trope of
for the
being safe
aerodrome.
once you've crossed the border feels unrealistic when the cops chasing you can just contact their counterparts on the other side of the line to arrest and extradite you. In fact,
So
the
you
US
just
doesn't
find a
seem to
wonder.
care much about other countries' borders and
Find
wants
a
to
wonder
chase
you
you
can
forever.
unlock
Ditto
with a
Israel,
Eureka.
Russia, and India. Other governments might still extradite you or even torture you on your local ruler's behalf. After all, you are a criminal, terrorist, communist insurgent. So how do police train and work together internationally? For an example, let's head to Atlanta.
Oxford
Wow.
University.
No, wait, not that part of Atlanta. The Weelaunee Forest. As I covered in a recent video, a sprawling police training facility, dubbed Cop City by dissidents, is being built in this forest. If endangering the many native species of this forest weren't bad enough, Cop City will be an international hub for police from all over the world to train in hurting people for expressing themselves publicly. Because only cops and the rich people they work for want Cop City, a movement to stop Cop City has sprung up around it. The state has levied terrorism and racketeering charges, that one unsuccessfully, against the movement because lying, repressing, and imprisoning are what states do. The police also murdered a forest defender, Tortuguita, and lied about that too. But Atlanta's is not the only cop
Hell
city.
yeah.
They're being built around the US, and resistance to them is growing. In Michigan, there's a National Guard training center that attempted to grab another 162,000 acres of land for its purposes. Protesters mobilized and stopped the expansion, though not before being labeled terrorists. Other people have been working to stop what they call Cop Campus in San Pablo, California, from militarizing the police occupying the communities around them, like Oakland and San Francisco. Given the US's history,
But how will the gentrification in Oakland continue without them? That's really why they need these types of police there, because Oakland is getting so gentrified. It's been going on for a while
this has been
now.
happening for years.
Mm-hmm.
I've been hearing
It's
people
because
talk
of
about this
Silicon
for a long
Valley.
time. Of course it is.
The tech sector pulls people into the tri-state area, or not the tri-state area, Bay Area.
Mm-hmm. And they're moving out to Oakland because San Francisco's full.
Yeah,
Great.
street by street.
looking at you, School of the Americas, you can be sure these facilities will be used to train cops working for oppressive regimes all over the world. But there are some resistors. You can find them. When people ask me what they can do to get involved in their communities, this is one of the first things I think of. Stopping Cop City, stopping ICE, stopping cops at any level you can. Activists have tried to warn us that Cop City is a global concern. Cops will come from all over the US and the world to train there. Policing has an exchange program. The US's global political and economic power is shaped and reproduced by US influence over law enforcement and security practices the world over. US military and police officers train with military and police forces globally in a colossal network of force and violence that traverses the traditional boundaries between military and law enforcement, domestic and foreign policy, and national versus international space. This coalition serves a globe-trotting regime of counterinsurgency that targets the daily life and resistance of the masses of people marked for exploitation, extraction, dispossession, and death by the racialized calculus of the U.S. empire on either side of its colonial borders. Consider the Georgia International Law Enforcement Exchange, GILEE, a prime example of this global security assistance.
Like the movie?
Started in 1992, GILEE is
Looting
a privately funded
the
police
Bob
exchange
camps
program that
drops their
facilitates law
ability, drops their progress to city-state.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. This one. Governor slot. Give me that settler, not consumer population. Love that. Coastal city incoming.
Enforcement officials as well as corporate security executives from the U.S. state of Georgia to build mutually strengthening relationships with foreign governments and their security forces. The police exchanges arranged by GILEE have been condemned by activists and human rights organizations in the U.S. and around the world. According to the Council on American-Islamic Relations 2020 report, GILEE perpetuates police militarization and brutality by encouraging fear-based and violent policing, especially of minoritized and racialized communities. Further, GILEE has a history of collaborating with foreign governments who use their law enforcement agencies to restrict civil liberties, commit human rights violations, and/or promote bigotry, including sexism, anti-Semitism, and Islamophobia, such as Hungary's autocratic regime. GILEE's security exchanges with the State of Israel have been especially condemned by activists who draw parallels between Israel's militarized police repression of Palestinians and the Georgia Police Department's history of brutality towards its black population. You could also draw parallels with the US's history of colonialism and genocide and the great extent to which it has aided in the war on indigenous land defenders. The US has a long history in Latin America of promoting economic policies to benefit corporations engaged in extractive and otherwise exploitative industries, while simultaneously training, arming, and supporting the state and paramilitary forces that brutally repress those who resist such policies. In short, the US brand of policing, the kind that would be taught and exported from Cop City, exists to protect capital and property. The crackdown against those fighting it in Atlanta and in Honduras, El Salvador, and across the world offers a frightening glimpse into a potential future, one of increasing state violence against communities everywhere who struggle to defend water, land, and ecosystems from corporate greed. According to Global Witness, 146 land defenders that we know of were killed and kidnapped in 2024 alone, most in Latin America. You're probably aware of El Salvador's notorious Secot prison, to which the US sent 280 people without trial in March and April of 2025, and where they have most likely been tortured. Secot is a symptom of El Salvador's own bullshit war on terror and war on drugs. Instead of legalizing drugs, which would sharply reduce gang power and...
But then the drugs would have that inflation I was talking about.
Would they, though? Nearly all the violence associated with drugs, El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele decided to double down on criminalization. Under the pretext of stopping gangs, police have arrested anti-mining activists, union leaders, journalists, kids. His cops have kidnapped and held upwards of 100,000 people without trial since 2022, claiming there have been no killings at all in El Salvador in that time, while 500 people have died in his jails. If you had to guess, who would you say trained and funded Bukele's cops. A key component of U.S. police reform efforts in Central America has been to create, develop, and train elite police units to specialize in the fight against organized crime, often to deadly ends. Investigators connected El Salvador's Specialized Reaction Forces, a joint police and military unit backed by significant U.S. funding, to the murder of 43 suspected gang members in the first half of 2017 alone. Though officially disbanded, many of its members transitioned to a new U.S.-backed unit, the Jaguars. In neighboring Honduras, the U.S. heavily invested in the creation of the Tigres. It's sad how these grown men insist on having a team name that sounds badass. Fathers, please don't beat up your kids so they don't end up displacing their anger towards you onto others for the rest of their lives. Launched in 2012, Tigres officers have on multiple occasions been implicated in drug trafficking, corruption, and state repression of protesters. In recent years, some of the most notorious U.S.-trained security forces around the world have become the trainers, often with funding from various U.S. agencies. Colombian soldiers now offer trainings in Honduras through Southcom. The Atlanta police, too, have received training from Colombia, as well as from Israel and elsewhere through a program subsidized by the U.S. Department of Justice. If you don't get invited to a cop city in the US, you can still hire many firms to train your cops in the latest repression tactics. Maybe Interpol can help. You could join the IACP, the International Association of Chiefs of Police. If they don't let you in, you might have to join the IATP-TPS-ATPS.
That's the International Association of Trailer Park Supervisors, and Assistant Trailer Park Supervisors.
Since the beginning of Donald Trump's second term, the U.S. government has finally ditched
What the fuck is that
friendly
from?
empire facade
Trailer
and
Park
started
Boys.
leaning into the cruelty of what it's been doing for centuries. It now sends prisoners all over the world to be held indefinitely without trial. We've heard a bit about Secot and some other places, mostly from their PR photos, but for the most part, journalists aren't allowed in. But the US doesn't just export its victims, it exports the private police state. There's been a rapid increase in imprisonment in countries around the world, led by the US, which has been exporting its own system of mass incarceration. In 2019, it was involved in the prison systems of at least 33 different countries. US programs in these countries included the construction of new prisons, prison guard training, accreditation, data management, and overall design. The US already has many thousands of prisoners producing billions in products and services for huge corporations for slave wages, so expect more of that everywhere. The whole world will continue to see a steady rise in prison numbers and the propaganda necessary to justify it. As the economy becomes more unequal and states turn the screws tighter on dissent, less authoritarian states are adopting the methods used by more authoritarian states. Whatever differences in political culture, all states have the same goals, principally to keep the poor and workers in their place. Once masses of people are no longer needed on a long-term and even permanent basis, there arises the political problem of how to control this expanded mass of surplus humanity. Greater discipline is required, both for those who manage to secure work under new regimes of precarious employment and superexploitation, and for those expelled and made surplus. The entire social order becomes surveilled. Systems of state and private surveillance now have the ability to monitor any corner of the world and any transaction that cannot be carefully concealed. The global order as a unity becomes increasingly repressive and authoritarian. Today, states have a wide selection of high-tech weapons and spying equipment to keep their populations in fear. The global economy is itself based more and more on the development and deployment of these systems of warfare, social control, and repression, simply as a means of making profit and continuing to accumulate capital in the face of stagnation, what this author terms militarized accumulation or accumulation by repression. If it's evident that unprecedented global inequalities can only be sustained by ubiquitous systems of social control and repression, it's become equally evident that quite apart from political considerations, the ruling groups have acquired a vested interest in war, conflict, and repression as a means of accumulation. As war and state-sponsored violence become increasingly privatized, the interests of a broad array of capitalist groups shift the political, social, and ideological climate towards generating and sustaining social conflict, such as in the Middle East, and in expanding systems of warfare, repression, surveillance, and social control. We are now living in a veritable global war economy. This stuff is big business. The state's job in this empire, among other things, is to force open new markets so capitalists can invest the trillions of dollars sloshing around global markets. I've always been told capitalism meant opportunities.
It's not a bad
and
take.
would make our lives better. But the opportunities are for the...
Make sure to change the title so it says, just make it a movie watch party title.
Okay.
tiny percentage of the population who are investors and cops, and everyone else gets the global
BG
police
hated
state.
his cold
All
tile.
of global society becomes a highly surveilled and controlled and wildly
I'm sorry for
profitable
trying.
battle space. A lot of the latest war technology comes from
So
Israel, where
ungrateful.
you know it works because it's already been tested on Palestinians. The occupied Palestinian territory has been transformed into probably the most monitored, controlled, and militarized place on Earth. It epitomizes the dream of
Has
every
been for a
general,
while, I
security
say.
expert, and police officer to be able to exercise total biopolitical control. In a situation where the local population enjoys no effective legal protections or privacy, they and their lands become a laboratory where the latest technologies of surveillance, control, and suppression are perfected and showcased, giving Israel an edge in the highly competitive global market. Labels such as combat-proven, tested in Gaza, and approved by the IDF on Israeli or foreign products greatly improves their marketability. Aside from official enemies like Iran and North Korea, Israel has sold to regimes all over the world that express interest in repressing
would
their
Israel not sell to
populations
North
like
Korea?
Israel does in
Leave
the
North
West
Korea
Bank,
alone.
Gaza, Lebanon, and wherever else it's occupying at any given time. It provided support to dictatorships in Guatemala, El Salvador, Nicaragua, and Costa Rica when Congress had blocked the U.S. from doing
And my
so
lizard
officially. It worked
was
closely
so
with
asleep
Iran under the Shah. It helped Suharto's
that he
Indonesia
woke
massacre a million people
and
they
had
called
to
communists. By the
essentially
way, have you
lift
ever
himself
noticed
off
the
the
people
ground?
who get killed always get called the worst thing the government can call people at that time? Terrorists, drug gangs, Islamists, communists.
Terrorism.
It's fine to kill millions of people
Are you a
as long as they're
terrorist?
communists. Or
I am a terrorist.
I just... So, like,
Terrorism.
sure, like, the American state, Islamist and terrorist and communist are bad to that state, but, like... Communist and Islamist are not, like, as taboo of labels as anarchist.
That is a good point. That is a really good point. Like, Islamist is just a term. Like, we use the term Islamist, but we're not like using it in a derogatory sense like the state would be.
I'll say, like, I'll, like, refer to the bad Islamist in kind of derogatory means, like jihadis. Which isn't that derogatory, it's what they are, you know?
Yeah, it's like literally what they are, yeah.
But
I mean, that's why, like, Islamist isn't necessarily... Like, Hamas is an Islamist organization.
I'd argue they're
not-
more nationalist.
Sure, but it's like Islamic nationalism. Like, it's... So it's like, yeah, Islamist is a very specific thing. Let's see what the Google definition for Islamist is, huh?
Islamist is just... See, like, Hamas, I don't think they're run by a cleric, so they're not Islamists.
Ah, interesting.
So I think specifically Islamists are people who think that
True principles and teachings.
the
So it's
church
essentially
is basically the top.
Islamic Seven Mountain Mandate. kind of
Yes. Kind of.
shit. Okay.
They want the church to be the authority.
Yeah, okay. Fuck the church.
So even then, like, I think Islamist is a very general label, which is why it's better to use the label Salafist.
Yes, much better.
But nobody knows what that is.
Not really. Especially not the general dipshit fake nationalist.
And I think even then, that's a specific sect of Islamism that's still dictates that someone should be at the top. But
I powered to a golden age so quickly that
like
I'm
Hamas
at
is a
31.
jihadist organization at the end of the day.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Israel has sold weapons.
I hit a golden age so hard. There's a potential 23 turns left.
Don't overshoot it. It'll make it harder.
I'm desperately trying not to. I took off my melee unit, which is a unique unit, to prevent the era score. Currently trying to figure out my settlers without over pushing the golden age. That being said, I don't think tribal villages will be that much of an issue. Should be fine. Got this mountain range.
Weapons and training to the most repressive regimes in Myanmar, Azerbaijan, South Sudan, Haiti, Argentina, Sri Lanka, Russia, apartheid South Africa, and Rwanda, probably selling some of the arms used in the 1994 genocide there. But Israel doesn't just sell to dictatorships. It helps militarize the so-called democracies, too. Canada, under Justin Trudeau, purchased Elbit-made Hermes 900 drones worth $28 million in late 2020. This drone was first tested during the 2014 war on Gaza. They're just surveillance drones, though. They'll only be used to watch everyone everywhere all the time and recognize your face and identify you as a terrorist. Because Israel leads the world in identifying you as a terrorist. Biometric facial recognition is a growth industry estimated to be worth $11.6 billion globally by 2026. Coresight AI is a part Israeli-owned facial recognition company that works with the notoriously brutal police departments in Mexico and Brazil and the Israeli government. A former Israeli army colonel, Danny Tirza, partnered with Coresight AI to develop a police body camera that could immediately identify an individual in crowds, even if their face was covered, and match the person to photographs from years before. The IDF uses extensive facial recognition with a growing network of cameras and mobile phones to document every Palestinian in the West Bank. Starting in 2019, Israeli soldiers used the Blue Wolf app to capture Palestinian faces, which were then compared to a massive database of images dubbed the Facebook for Palestinians.
Great.
Soldiers were told to compete by taking the most photos of Palestinians, and the most prolific would win prizes. Killing or injuring Palestinians should be as easy as ordering a pizza. That was the logic behind an Israeli military-designed app in 2020 that allowed a commander in the field to send details about a target on an electric device to troops who would then quickly neutralize that Palestinian. The colonel working on the project, Oren Matzliach, told the Israel Defense website that the strike would be like ordering a book on Amazon. Or a pizza in a pizzeria using your smartphone.
The pizza party!
This kind of dehumanization is the inevitable result of endless occupation. It's also an export asset. What's appealing to growing numbers of regimes globally is learning how Israel gets away with politicide. Gaza is now the perfect laboratory for Israeli ingenuity in domination. It's the ultimate ethno-nationalist dream, keeping Palestinians indefinitely imprisoned. The barrier around the territory was first built in 1994 and has undergone a range of upgrades since, though it was destroyed by Palestinians in 2001. Today, its population has been placed in a forced experiment of control, where the latest technology and techniques are tested. However, what's happening in Gaza is increasingly occurring globally. The Palestinian architect Yada Sharif said that the Palestinianization of cities is happening worldwide. It's happening by destruction and erasure, but also with dramatic climate change. Despite everything I've said, the rise of an empire of cops is not inevitable. I've mentioned a few things we can do to stop it throughout this video, like joining Stop Cop City movements or some organization that opposes police militarization and surveillance. Ultimately, we should be
PSL.
I don't think that's what he was saying.
What?
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I am so excited because I am doing my first ever tier list. Today the tier list will be on most disturbing non-horror movies. Now this list is actually from Spooky Astronauts. So Emma is an amazing horror and disturbing.
Hopefully I've seen all of them. Now that said, there are certain movies that, like, I'm not going to watch a movie just because it's disturbing. Right? So there might be certain disturbing movies on here that I have no interest in watching.
Sure.
But I'm sure I will know many of them.
Film creator here on YouTube, and I honestly loved her list because we have very similar taste, and I feel like I would add a lot of the same movies on my list as well, so I decided to go with hers, and I also added some extra movies onto my list as well. So shout out to Emma for making such an amazing list, and I've also decided to keep the categories as well. I've renamed a couple of them, but I just think it works really well. I have watched Emma's video on this, but I haven't watched it in quite a while, so I don't really remember where she's placed her movies, which I think is a good thing because I'm trying to go in with a fresh mind. Also, it does get a little bit weird comparing traumas and comparing what's disturbing and what's not. Just bearing in mind that there are also so many movies out there, and even though I may rank something as more disturbing than not, doesn't mean it is. It just means that it affected me personally. And yeah, I'm just very curious to see how this will
because like a lot of people would say Salo
let's
is a
get
horror
into
movie
it, and I'll explain the different tiers to you.
No.
Right off the bat, we have D, which is for dark commentary.
Oh.
These are movies that I would probably consider not quite feeling the lasting effects from. They are disturbing in nature, but I can go about my day and not really think of them.
Someone should call that movie 120
challenging watch for some, but for me it's fine. There is more to tell and there's more to the story than just that. For uncomfy, I just renamed this just to fit it on the tier system easily, but these are movies that I find uncomfortable. And for A, we have ups, or most of them. American History X. I love this movie. So this movie is a very hard watch, but I honestly would recommend it to everyone. It is such an important movie. It is harrowing. It is devastating, and Edward Norton is incredible. American History X tells the story of...
Some of these I'd already considered horror.
A Clockwork Orange? It's more of a thriller.
Even Dancer in the Dark, Come and See. The coffee table is on there. Spoilers. Hopefully she won't give away the spoilers in that movie. Perfect Blue, Requiem for a Dream. Salo is considered by many to be horror. Irreversible for sure. Nocturnal Animals, Old Boy, all of those could be. I haven't seen some of these.
Former neo-Nazi who has left prison and he's trying to stop his brother from following down the same path, and it is incredibly powerful as a film. It explores racism, cycles of hate in America, and I think it is very important still today. So I absolutely love this film. I've seen it a few times. I think there is one particular scene in this movie towards, I think it's probably in the first scene of the film, involving a curb. So yeah, very, very graphic, very violent. Oh, it just like makes me, I get shivers when I think about
really
like, the
sound.
teeth.
Yeah. Hey, is that the one that I made that ray gun meme from?
Yeah. It's the teeth, the close-up of the teeth that really get you.
of the teeth on the curb. My gosh, yeah, very, very hard to watch. But I honestly would put this.
The girl she said. Does the girl she said? I don't want it restricted to genres. Let's see.
Hi, friends.
I'm not your buddy,
Well,
guy.
She
This
said
is just
friend.
disturbing movie tier list. Okay. Is it all the same movies? It is all the same movies.
That's funny.
Okay. Just that's what I wanted to know.
Particular scene in this movie towards, I think it's probably in the first scene of the film, involving a curb. So yeah, not a movie that has traumatized me. Very incredible watch and amazing performances. So that is going on Dark Commentary, and definitely check it out. Oh no.
Oh no.
Okay, so the next one is An American Crime. This movie is horrific, and there also is another movie based on the story of Sylvia.
The Girl Next Door. I haven't seen American Crime, but I've seen The Girl Next Door. And it's the fact, like, it's more disturbing knowing the real case. It's like they made a concrete movie, and like it's like made to be like a shock splatter grunge flick.
Okay.
And I don't think that it's like making like a splatter movie about the Holocaust, you know? You could do it.
Should you?
It depends. Like, it could be very well. Like, an example of this is, this isn't so much a splatter movie about the Holocaust, but Frankenstein's Army.
Okay.
Have you heard of this film?
No.
Okay. It's not so much like the Holocaust as much as like weird German experimentation stuff. But they're like it's like a cyborg zombie monster movie with really, really good costume design and character design. But it's a found footage movie, and it's supposed to be like the Soviet recon team going in that all speak English, right? And then somehow they're able to like be using, like, they try to like make the film look a little aged, but like you really have to suspend disbelief already to like believe that it's a found footage movie to begin with from there. And I think if you can make the jump, then the movie is a lot better, because I think it's actually a really well done found footage splatter movie, and if it's probably one of the better ones, because it doesn't actually do annoying shit with the camera like other found footage movies really do. But literally at the end, so like not the very end, but like getting towards the final acts, you find out like the guy who's making the monsters literally is the grandson of Frankenstein, right? And he's a Jew who's doing these experiments in the Nazi army. And like, so like when they first go into it, it has such a great setup, because when they first find the facility, they're like looking at the damage, the battle damage of it, and they're like, it's artillery. We don't have units this far in, which means that the Germans have been shelling themselves. Right? So the Germans themselves were shelling this facility because like the cyborg zombies got out.
Yep.
And so, and it's, you know, it's definitely got some scary fucking monsters in it. If you like that, like, do you like 13 Ghosts?
I did like that movie.
Like, you know, like the different kinds of monsters, and not any one monster being good enough to carry the film. But like, also they took a lot of care to get his period correct with all the stuff as possible. So like the props, the camera prop in the film was from that era, but and they do a great job of not keeping the monsters on screen for too long, because some of them it's very easy to see that it looks like guar foam rubber, you know.
An issue.
Well, you know how guar looks. Okay. Here's the costume designs, the sketches from the book. Do you full screen this?
It's pretty much full screen.
No, because it's full screen, so you can see all full. See, like this guy right here, the mosquito head guy. Super scary in the movie. But they did a lot to design all the monsters before even like making the movie. So like the costume design is really what to watch this movie for.
Yeah.
Like, aren't these all fucking great and just so crazy? Like, look at this one. He's literally a train. Is that fucking awesome?
Hold on. Wait. I can't remember where my soundbite is. Give me a second. Need to open. Now I need to find it. It's towards the end.
I like trains.
The lichens.
That zombie be
It's based on a true story of a young teenage girl who was.
I think American Crime.
There's another one, and
might be a little
I
bit more serious than The Girl Next Door. The Girl Next Door is still pretty serious
and upset,
but
and
it's
just
it's not actually Sylvia. It's a fictional story based on what happened to Sylvia. So, but I still think it's a very disturbing movie that I just wouldn't show somebody.
Just devastating, and society failed this poor young girl, and
her
I'm
sister.
going to put it right up to the top for existential damage, because I do think about this story every now and then, and it is just, no words. I'm sorry if I'm not articulating it, but it's just movie when I was 12. So yeah, I had a lot of access to media when I was younger, but I just really think this film is so beautiful. I would probably put it, I wouldn't put it under traumatizing, shocking, or existential damage.
It's a fucking Lars von Trier movie. Seen
really
one,
that
seen
bad
them all.
comparison, in my opinion, in comparison to other films. I'm going to pop
That's
it
where
in
I'd put it.
uncomfortable, because there are certain scenes involving the genitalia.
Yeah, William
that
Dafoe's giant dong.
Pretty challenging to watch, but overall, I think it's fine. Honestly, I mean, I'm probably going to say that a lot. I need to be careful with you, but aside from that, I really like the storyline. I think it's beautifully shot. I think it's very poetic, and I really love that Lars von Trier adds a lot
before
of
Lars von Trier got up his own ass and made movies like The House That Jack Built. Which
you don't like that movie?
Oh my god, it's so dog shit. I saw a Reddit comment that like summed it up so well, and they said like something like Dante's Inferno shit is a metaphor for how far up the director is in his own ass.
chapters into his films. I just
There's
really
one
like that
square
style
that I
of
can
filmmaking.
put a
and so I'm going to put that in
fourth city
uncomfy. If you have an open mind, if
in
you
the middle
don't
here.
mind things that are just
I'm
weird
contemplating
and
it.
gross and a bit messed up,
Oh
I
my
think
God,
you'd
so
really
many bar
enjoy this
camps around
movie.
me
I
right
just
now.
think it's great. Oh, and the opening scene, yeah. Pure cinema.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm going to cancel myself by saying so many bizarre things, but we're just roll with me.
Yeah,
okay.
bizarre.
Next we have Bully. This one's a hard one.
I don't know this one.
So this one is also based on a true story.
What's it called?
Bully?
Well, maybe. Man. I think I only recommend it to people who are bizarre, so yeah, I would do that. Yeah, there's something with a cat in this that I don't like, but there was no animal cruelty
I don't know why
in
you
making this
changed it. You
film,
can't-
but there's just
can't
certain
I was
things
trying to
I
get
remember
her
and certain
in the
imagery from this
picture
movie
without-
that's just bizarre. But if you really like black
How bizarre?
comedy and that's weird,
why do we care
and
about
wacky and
getting her in the picture?
feels kind of gross at times,
using her
then
video.
Get the list in the
check it
picture.
out, give it a watch.
Hold on.
So the next one we have is Clockwork Orange.
We always cut people
I
off.
love this movie.
Like, they always
honestly,
put themselves in the corner that
I'm
gets
putting
cut
it
off.
straight into dark commentary because I think it's fine. For me, it's such a popular
That one.
film. It's infamous.
You ruined it!
The book is amazing.
I'm trying
the book
to
is so
fix
bizarre,
our
honestly.
settings.
Like, it's quite challenging to read. There are some incredibly disturbing scenes in this movie, particularly with an assault scene, and I also
about
remember
that?
another particular scene with a woman being chased around the house with one of her sculptures. It's not funny, but yeah, there's a very...
funny.
This movie is quite bizarre. I wouldn't recommend for everyone. The way that it shows violence or ultra-violence in a very
Oh, it's Clockwork Orange.
unique way is quite shocking, and
Yeah.
I understand why this film is very controversial and it's disturbing.
Don't they literally rape
and it
a
has
woman
this
in that
place on this
movie?
list.
Yep.
But for me personally, I think it's quite tame
Like-
in
I do-
comparison
I also
to
think it's
potentially
quite tame
others.
in comparison
So
to
yeah,
other
if
things.
you are honestly Stanley Kubrick,
Sure.
incredible. The music
is
in
also a
this is
70s
amazing.
movie.
I used to have actually a theme song as my alarm in the morning for a short period, but then I got sick of it. But I always think I'm a huge Stanley Kubrick fan, so I absolutely love this one. I have a bit of a bias. It's amazing how a film has just lasted beyond its years. Like 50 years later, we're still talking about it. I still reference Clockwork Orange all
Not
the
even his
time,
best movie.
and I
No,
love it. I think it's
it's
an
not.
incredible
It's pretty
film,
good, though.
great piece of British cinema from the 1970s. So absolutely love this one. Clockwork Orange is set in a dystopian future, and it tells the story of a violent delinquent who undergoes an experimental transformation which removes his
called torture.
capacity for evil. And I think the film is so brilliant. Beyond its disturbing and shocking moments, I think there are quite intentional, and the way that it discusses free will, violence, and shows violence on screen, I just think it's an incredible social commentary and dark commentary on society, and yeah, incredible. I really like this film.
I'm just going to let you know. I am going for a crossbow rush.
Okay.
So
I'm about to get my third crossbow. My
I may
third
just
archer
have to
get
crossbow
crossbows.
rush to maintain all the barb camps spawning around me.
Uh-huh.
But ideally, I will be going after Japan.
Okay.
So, if you... So that's a medieval rush. I don't know what medieval units you have, but if you click on your name, it will tell you what era your unique units are from.
Oh, they're from classical, ancient.
Mm.
They're all the basic ones. I think there's an archer and a warrior. Like there's a melee unit.
Yeah, so yours aren't really for rushing, it's for early game map exploration and expansion. It's like the people who get unique scouts.
AI viewers, huh? How about you fucking kill yourself?
Huh?
Fuck you, AI.
Okay, so, God, Come and See.
Come?
Oh no, and there are a few
Come
war
and
films
See.
on this. My God, Come and See, I would say I'm going to put that right up with
I would say
Traumatizing,
yes.
and I'll tell you why. But Come and See, it is an anti-war film about a teenager who joins the Soviet War.
It's like...
I don't think he joined. I think he kind of had no other choice. His
Well,
entire village was massacred.
That's after he joins, though.
Wait.
Yeah. You don't remember the movie. You're going to have to watch it again.
That's
this opening
right.
scene, the opening scene is so important, right? Because the opening scene are him and his little brother playing war. And his brother's doing the voice like this because he's the villain. He's the Nazi, right? And he digs and he finds a rifle and like a military belt, right? So this is what was happening in Belarus at the time, is that the volunteers, not the actual military, but the civil defense forces, were all made up of scavenged gear. They weren't supplied by the Russian army, right? And so there's like a few officers, like the main guy who calls them the partisans and stuff and gives the epic speech and stuff. But like as he digs up the rifle, there's a Soviet like recon plane that sees them digging in the field. And so then later he meets the old man who tells him not to dig in the beginning of the movie, and the old man's basically been burned to death. And this is right after his entire village... By the way, spoilers for Come and See. This is right after his entire village is massacred, right? But what you have to remember is he doesn't turn around. Only the girl does.
Oh, so he never sees it.
So he runs because it's setting in what has happened, but he denies it. He never looks back.
Oh.
Right? And then he ends up in the bog. It's like, you know, in the Neverender Story, the swamp of sadness, right? And they're being pulled in, and she's telling him they're dead. And he's like throwing her, actually doing harm to this girl. Like she could fucking drown in this bog. Then immediately after that, he meets the old man who says, I told you not to dig. So the self-blame sets in right after that on him. But what's important is that the partisans were already active in that area. Right? The Russians just massacred multiple villages. Like, that's why his village is massacred, but then the movie ends with a separate village massacre. He didn't have an effect on the Russians or the Nazis coming there.
Yes. Ultimately, he was powerless.
Yes. So that blame is an important effect.
Survivor's guilt.
So he goes in this phase of guilt, and that's when the cow actually gets killed on camera, which I think is a huge thing. An actual thing dying on camera is fucking huge. That's very disturbing. They're using actual bullets to shoot at the kid in that scene. Fuck? Like actual bullets and artilleries and everything like were actually used. Live ammo was used throughout the entire movie. That's why it looks the way it does. And you know, after that phase of him going through the guilt and the blame, it enters into the final scene where he's taken in by nice people. And
is this after they captured the Germans and they did their little speech under the bridge?
No, that's the very end.
That's the very end. Okay.
So he's taken in by nice people, right? And the Nazis come to that village and put all the children in a barn and light it on fire.
Yes.
Right? And in that moment, when they have the gun to his head and they laugh just to take a picture, that's the moment where the character then, it sinks in that this is just how the Nazis are, right? It wasn't him that brought them here.
Yeah, him digging.
Yeah, it wasn't his fault that
and
his
is that
whole
when he
family
starts
was
shooting
killed.
The picture?
No, that's still later in the movie.
I'm pretty sure that's the last scene.
Yeah, one of them. Let's probably watch the movie again, right?
Yeah, I think so. It's been a few years.
Then, after that scene, he is leaving, and the partisans counteroffense and start hitting the Nazis. And he's walking out, and he sees a girl who looks similar to the girl who he was with. We never know what happens to her after midway through the movie. She disappears. You never know what happens to her. But a girl who looks like her is then walking and holding a whistle, and her legs are all bloody, clearly indicating that she was, like, violently raped and stuff. And, like, that's... Then, like, right before that, he broke his rifle stock earlier in the movie. And he sees the woman who had the little marmoset monkey who witnessed and laughed the village being burned. And she's been shot dead, and, like, vomits coming out of her mouth. And he walks up and he just takes the tape to tape up his rifle. He doesn't even, like, give a thought to that woman being dead. But then the woman who was the survivor who looked like his friend, that death
shook him.
That not well, it's not a death, but that event sinks in. And he starts to, like, he separates, like, you know, like, death's not being equal.
Okay.
Right, because, like, he doesn't care that the Nazis died, but he then sees,
it's a
like,
form of
this
dehumanization,
symbol.
isn't it?
Well, the whole thing is just, like, this girl is, like, the loss of innocence. Right? Like, he doesn't know what happened to his friend, and he cares about what happened to his friend.
Yeah.
And that's when the German is like, we're a superior race and stuff. And they are about to light him on fire. And then it ends with the question of...
Would you kill baby Hitler?
Would you kill baby Hitler?
Yeah.
But it's very accurate to... That's why, like, the Soviets banned it, is because it made them look under-equipped.
Yes,
Like,
okay.
the Soviets, like... A lot of Soviets died fighting those Nazis. They were certainly... I don't know if bravery had anything to do with it, but...
Oh, it was Russian wave tactics.
Not necessarily.
Overwhelming hand power.
No, not necessarily wave tactics at all. I've heard that that's largely a myth.
Wasn't the defense of Leningrad?
Well, Stalingrad was like, I think 3 million people die in that battle.
It's a lot of fucking people.
Yeah.
Is that
it's
Nazis
as much as
and
the Battle of
Soviets?
Somme in World War One.
Is that Nazis and Soviets that died?
Yeah. And
okay.
Not including civilians, I think.
Okay.
So there's even more.
3 million combatants is fucking crazy.
I believe so. You'd have to... just type it in. Type in Stalingrad. But it's also an urban war. It's so... I imagine... Because, like... I imagine, like... how horrible that must have been. In winter, too, you know?
Oh, yeah. It went for 6 months.
Boo Nazis.
Or he's expecting adventure and heroism, but unfortunately he is instead actually exposed to the devastating effects of Nazi brutality.
2.4 million Soviets. 500,000 Allied soldiers. Sorry, Axis. So the fucking Soviets lost heaps.
Yeah, but 3 million people dead. Combatants, right?
Yeah, roughly. Majority of those being Soviets. They also lost 6,000, well, 3,000 to 6,000 aircraft, 4,000 tanks, and 15,000 guns. Interesting. Yeah, so total dead 1.1 minimum to 3 million total. Crazy. Man, they went pretty low too. The Germans went all the way down.
Nice. Fucking city-state cleared that barb camp that was right at my gate.
So it looks like they went down towards the Black Sea, almost to Grozny. They were trying to encircle it. That's fucking crazy.
And I think this film is so incredible. If you were to watch any anti-war film, watch this one. This movie is and must.
I don't know if it's anti-war. It's more.
Love this film.
Like, it's bigger than anti-war. There's a lot of stuff about, like, genocide and, you know?
It's more of a warning of the realities of war.
Like, the kid joined the partisans and ended up being a circumstantial survivor of the genocide just because he joined them. And then also the Nazis are killing these people because they claim that there might be partisans hiding.
Yeah. Collective punishment.
It is devastating. It's widely considered as one of the most devastating and upsetting anti-war movies of all time. And if you don't mind subtitles, well, you shouldn't if you're watching this channel. Absolutely watch it. Some of the imagery in this film I will never forget. Just seeing the change in the physicality of the face of the young boy from start to the end of the movie is just heartbreaking. I also remember a scene where he's playing with his friend and they go into a nearby village and then you see all of the villagers in the background. And I'm not going to spoil it, but it's just shocking. I remember when I first watched it, I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah, it's awful. Very, very good movie and definitely traumatizing. So that's where it lives. All right, so next we have Compliance. Oh, I don't enjoy this movie.
I don't enjoy
This one's awful as well. This is based on a true story. So Compliance is about a fast food manager who receives a phone call from a man claiming to be a police officer, and she has to follow his instructions. And it's crazy, this film, about how far it goes and how far they're willing just to believe this person on the phone, which is beyond. Like, I just cannot believe this actually happened and this is a true story, because it's just so messed up and just so bizarre to me. Like, it's very frustrating film for me, because I'm like, how could this happen? Really? Like, are we that serious? But unfortunately it did happen, and it's very shocking. I would put it up with shocking, for sure. I don't think about this film very often. I don't need to rewatch it. It didn't have a huge impact on me, but in general, it is incredibly shocking. It's incredibly disturbing. Definitely check it out. It's more of like a drama, I would say. And yeah, I feel awful for the main actress in this. Oh, right. So moving on to Dancer in the Dark. Oh. This one is definitely one of the movies that I speak about all the time.
Yeah, it's the movie where Bjork throws nickels into the oven.
I think of the most traumatizing movies of all time.
The thing is, that SNL skit legitimately...
I throw knickers into the oven?
Like, who's doing that? What's her name? Winona Ryder is doing Bjork in that.
Ah, interesting.
And she ruined this movie because of the crash, bang, pow, everything is music, because Dance in the Dark, literally, she's going crack 'em boom, whatever she's saying to the machinery.
Doing her thing.
Bjork. It tells the story of a Czech immigrant working in a factory to save up some money for her son to have eye surgery.
It is so fucking good, though. I can't believe we forgot how to put it on the tier list, because, like, such an unconventional musical. And you can tell it's like one of those movies where it could only be done because Bjork was in there. So, like, it really paints this picture of intimacy between the director and the actor, and then it's almost like a found footage film, you know what I mean? It's very handheld and personal and up close. Louis the Warmest Color, they get really up close and tight and make you feel like you're part of it, but it doesn't feel handheld. It's always cinematic. Dancer in the Dark is never cinematic. It always looks handheld.
And oh my gosh, this movie is so heartbreaking. I cried. This is one of the movies that I have watched when I was ugly crying on the floor, like rocking, like, oh, it was awful. This is another one by Lars von Trier, probably one of his best works, I would say. And it's so bizarre because the movie is just, the tonal shifts in this movie is really interesting and also makes it all for the more disturbing, because I find that the subject matter of the story is just harrowing. It is devastating, and it's also intermixed with music videos and scenes of Björk dancing and almost happy, positive, uplifting music. It is just, this movie is devastating. Oh gosh. I'm going to put it up right at the top, honestly, in Existential Damage. It's one of those movies that you bring up to people when you're all having drinks and thinking, like, what's, like, the most depressing movie you have ever seen? And a lot of the time people will say this. And I definitely think it's an incredible movie as well. It's very sad. And I remember, actually, I went on a date. I like weird, dark, disturbing, so messed up. So whether you watch the US version with but I think, and when he was Existential Damage reason, this is probably up there with one of the saddest movies of all time. I'm going to put this in Existential Damage because it is such a beautiful film. It's a Studio Ghibli film by Hayao Miyazaki, and definitely his most devastating. He is known for creating such beautiful, whimsical, colourful films, but a lot of his films take place after the Second World War, and when he was also a child, navigating that as well. And yeah, this film is devastating. This is about two siblings who struggle to survive in Japan during the final months of World War II, and I probably don't have to even say much more than that. It is very devastating, and especially for an animated film, you would watch this maybe as a child and think, oh, like, this is cool, like Studio Ghibli, but no, very, very upsetting watch, and truly, like, traumatized me, and society failed them, and the damage is existential. So
that's a lot of damage.
Very beautiful film. If you want a tearjerker, check this one out. You are bound to cry from this. All right, so Happiness by Todd Solondz. I love this movie.
Never heard of it.
I know I'm probably messed up. I know I'm crazy. But
have we watched it?
Yeah, it's the one about the dead little kids. That's hilarious. You know? He gives the little boy tuna fish. He drugs this whole family.
No.
Yes.
Oh.
Philip Seymour Hoffman comes on his own wall a bunch of times.
Yes, okay. Okay. Memorable.
Yeah, that's probably one of the disturbing movies that I'm most comfortable showing people.
Mm.
Like, I wouldn't show people who couldn't handle edgy humor.
Yeah, okay.
And that's about it. Like, I wouldn't show my mom that movie. I don't think she would find it funny.
The movie would end, she'd be like, why did we watch that?
But I love Todd Solondz. He's one of my favorite directors. I have an extremely dark sense of humor, and I think Happiness is brilliant. I think it's his best work, honestly. So this movie has an ensemble cast, and it tells the story of a group of people trying to find happiness and meaning in their life while hiding dark secrets of their own. And there's a certain storyline in this that is incredibly dark and I shouldn't laugh, it's controversial.
It is funny,
I completely
though.
understand why some people are disgusted by this film, don't want to watch it.
Like,
totally understand if you're sensitive.
It ending with the dog licking the little boy's cum and then licking the grandma's face.
Diabolical.
Things with children and abuse, maybe don't watch this, but the movie is great. It is just so well done, and Philip Seymour Hoffman, come on. I'll watch anything that he's in, to be honest. So gosh, what would I put this in?
Gosh.
I think it's not tame enough for dark commentary, but for me, I would put it in shocking. I love this movie. Definitely some shocking moments where I was like, whoa, we're really going there. It does not hold back, this movie, and it's just, oh my gosh, it's so absurd. It's so dark, it's so absurd, and I love it.
This is everything I hate about the Australian accent.
I love it.
This is fucking torture.
No, oh my god.
That's why I put it on.
No words. I'm going to put this.
This
right
is legitimately the worst type of Australian accent.
This movie broke me. I love this movie so much. By Denis Villeneuve. I talk about this movie all the time. And
spoilers, we haven't watched
funny,
it yet.
Impacted us and love it. You're cool.
And the worst part is, it's not her fault.
Talk about the French film behind it, that if you do love it, you're not cool.
Spotting a cool. You have good movie from this list. I'm gonna say watch on Sunday. It is. I wish I could watch for the first time. Any mothers. So to tell a little bit about the plot, it is about who their mother was and that she went. I forgot that was coming up.
This is the only appropriate reaction to talking about this movie.
This movie will break your heart. Oh my gosh. Irreversible. Oh my god, no. I forgot that was coming up next. Oh god. I'm a huge Gaspar Noé fan. I love Irreversible. I've watched some videos.
Gross. Get out of here with that shit. Okay? Flag on the play. Okay? Nobody should say the word love when they're talking about that fucking movie. No. Like, that movie, we can never show it on stream. Ever.
Why?
It's just not something that will like, we would have an easier, like, there's just a very, here, I'll send it through.
Okay. So the tactic with this guy is to just pick any random tech and just get eurekas. It's very interesting gameplay. Get out of there. Silence?
I'm looking. Because it's, I'm trying to find the scene.
Mm.
And it's, like, fucked up enough that it's actually hard to find. Like it's one of those scenes that I'd probably be able to find it on a porn site because they wouldn't ban it there, which is fucking weird.
It's pretty funny.
recently of people's reaction at Cannes Film Festival when this was shown. This is the first one that we have that belongs to also the new French extremity movement, which I'll make another video on that because I love new French extremity films. They're some of my favorite genre in terms of like horror or disturbing cinema. Irreversible has Vincent Cassel and Monica Bellucci, and it tells the story. It's actually told in reverse chronological order. So the end of the movie plays first and then you know, I don't have to explain the rest. But it tells a story of the aftermath of a brutal assault, and it's just such a great movie. I know. And it's infamous for its 9-minute assault scene of Monica Bellucci.
9 minutes?
Which I totally understand if people don't want to watch that.
No camera cuts either.
What the fuck? France?
Like, you don't understand...
Unreal.
How fucking brutal and grotesque this scene is unless you've actually seen it. Like, the sounds she makes are still in my head to this day.
Fucking hell.
Uh-oh, I think I found it on Twitter for you.
Of course it's on Twitter.
It's actually not. It's just a screenshot of it.
Oh.
That's the thing, is like... It's hard to even find. I have the movie on my shelf, you know? Like, I own the movie, but... I also don't like it. Irreversible is the movie. Cal's asking. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I don't really like a non-linear movie. I haven't really seen one that I think I really like the way it does it.
Do you like Tarantino? Not really.
Well, it's specifically the reverse linear movie. So, like, Reservoir Dogs is fine. I really like Reservoir Dogs, actually. I should say it's fine. I haven't seen Tenet yet, but this is my specific issue with Nolan, is his style of writing.
Okay.
Like, I hate Memento. I think the point of Irreversible ending in the beginning is, like, it shows... Like, it starts at the end of the innocence that's lost and takes you to, like, where it was in the beginning. And I get that, but when you start with the innocence in the beginning and then see it lost, like Come and See, for example.
Yes. It is an interesting aspect being like, this is how bad it is. Let me show you where it started. That's an interesting idea.
What? Let me show you where it started?
Yeah, like what you're saying, reversing the order.
Yeah, no, so it actually... The assault scene happens in the middle of the movie. Mm-hmm. The opening scene is pretty good. But, like, the movie is specifically meant to disorient you. It has the way the camera moves. Like, I already get annoyed when the camera gets too fucking gimmicky in found footage films.
Yeah.
So, like, the soundtrack, it specifically has this droning that it goes throughout almost the entire movie.
Awful.
Okay? And then the scene transition, the camera is, like, going with it. Like, it's, like, swinging on it, like, going like this, and you're seeing, like, light, and then it'll show the floor, and it will do this for, like, a while, and it's going like this, like, on a smooth pirate ship type of gimbal movement with this disorienting sound, because it's supposed to, like, make you feel disoriented. And, like, maybe it would if I wasn't just annoyed and pissed off.
Sure.
Like, are we gonna fucking put a plot together here, or are we gonna dance?
I mean, it sounds like a you problem.
No, I'm specifically saying why it's a me problem. Why specifically
okay.
I don't like this movie. I cited specific reasons. I do not like reverse linear plots like Memento. I hate Memento. I hate the style that Nolan does. I think Nolan is like, if Nolan is attached to a project, immediately I'm like, I'm not gonna watch it.
That's fair.
You know, the Batman movies were fine. But like even what's the Bookshelf movie? Where he was knocking the books off the shelf the whole time because he's a time wizard.
The space one.
Yeah, I'm thinking in my head, Irreversible, Interstellar.
Yeah.
Like, 2001: A Space Odyssey is just a better movie. I've seen it already. You know what I mean? And like, at the end of the day, I feel like all Nolan movies are held together with fridge logic. Interstellar certainly does that. I think the Gravity Planet is cool, like with the water and stuff. Like, I think all that stuff's cool. But by the end, where it's like, love is the actual molecule or something, it's like, I've seen Fifth Element. I know that love is the answer at the end, okay? Like, give me something else. And then, like, just to, like Inception is so fucking stupid. Like, all the rules they have, it's like fridge logic is another thing that I fucking can't stand in movies.
Okay.
Like, I cannot fucking stand fridge logic because, in my opinion, when it comes to fridge logic, it impacts you rewatching the movie. Like, it's only good once if a movie relies on fridge logic.
Yeah.
And for me, it definitely was a hard watch. For me personally, I don't think it really needed to be 9 minutes long. I know that Gaspar Noé is a director who is also a provocateur. He likes to shock people, and I just love him. I love his work.
It's just like the movie wants to fucking spin the camera around the entire movie, and the one time that it's still, because like the way the scene is shot too, it's literally like the camera just sat on the ground and the cinematographer walked away.
Oh.
It's just her face,
Hey,
basically.
Hold on. Vietnam.
So it's the one time
went
the
to
camera
war.
chills the fuck out in the whole movie, and that's what we get for 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's insane.
It should be a break for my eyes.
Instead of the complete opposite.
And an assault on my ears. And the whole movie has already been an assault on my ears. It's just a different assault on my ears.
Vietnam
Monica
waged war
Bellucci's
in
sounds,
Japan.
the sounds that come out of her are very convincing. That's all I'll say. Like, fuck this movie. I don't want to fuck with anyone who's like, yeah, I'm into this movie, because they're going to show me some other bullshit. If this is like at the top of their list for movies they like, they're going to show me some other bullshit that I'm going to hate too.
Be honest, but
Japan.
honestly, this might
Vietnam
be one of my
waged war
favorites
with
of
Japan.
his. But
Do
I
it now.
will put it in.
What?
Make an alliance.
I want to put it in shocking.
Do a joint war.
because there are two
Now's the
particular
time.
scenes in this that are
Yokohama's almost down.
incredibly difficult and that have stayed with me a long time. But yeah, this list is so weird, by the way, because now I'm looking at it like Dancer in the Dark is existential damage above irreversible. Yeah, I'll put it in traumatizing, because if you're sensitive to any type of SA in movies, do not watch this. Do not watch this. This is incredibly infamous for a long scene on this, and the camera does not pull away. Definitely traumatizing. And
So, the thing that's like one of the traumatizing features of this movie that I will give it credit for is, so like at the end, it's them getting revenge on the person who assaulted Monica Bellucci.
Okay.
But the thing is, the guy who did it is standing in the background watching the revenge take place. So you know, like, once you've actually, like, seen it for the first time and then watch it again, because the guy they're looking for has a very distinct face. Like, he has, like, almost like, you know, who's the guy who plays the Punisher?
John Bernthal.
Yeah, he has a very John Bernthal look, but with that big nose that has the like bridge bend in it, like that right angular type of nose, and very like big brow. You know?
Okay.
He's almost like John Bernthal X, like caveman, but caveman would imply like flared nostrils when they're not really like that. But it's like that's what's kind of shitty is like he realized that the guy who actually did that to her is gonna go on living his life.
So who'd they get revenge on?
Basically the guy who was standing next to him.
Oh.
They thought it was him. And
okay.
the revenge scene I can find really easy. Like that one was no problem to find. But like that scene is very interesting. Like they do an arm break gag in it, and it's very effective. He like throws the guy on the ground and puts him in an arm bar from behind with his knee on the guy's elbow, like pulls his arm up. And it's one of the protagonists who gets his arm snapped by this guy.
Okay.
And his friend comes from behind and hits the guy with a fire extinguisher and proceeds to flatten the guy's face methodically. And like you hear the weight and the fire extinguisher like bounces when it comes down, you know? And the meat is like squirting everywhere and stuff. And the entire thing is in a club, so it has these like red gel lights.
Yep.
And great lighting in that scene. Like this scene is amazing. But it's not even the 9-minute assault scene that makes me hate the film. It's
the camera work.
The reverse. It's the editing. It's 100% just editing that makes me hate this movie. Basically.
A very good watch.
You could just, if you made it better, just make it better next time.
That has played in reverse chronological. I've seen Memento, and that had an interesting structure as well. But this one, yeah, definitely traumatizing. Need I say any more about that? Okay, Lolita. So, God, I'm going to put it in uncomfortable. Story. The movie is bizarre as well. I highly recommend reading the book. If you're a fan of literature, it is quite challenging to read. And I've also read it in French, so handles very frightening. Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Who was responsible for capturing him and why? So this is a Korean revenge thriller, probably the most iconic of South Korean cinema with the revenge. So it tells a story about a man who has been imprisoned for 15 years and then he's just suddenly released, and he's trying to figure out who was responsible for capturing him and why, and the whole film is just directed so well in such a unique way, and I just think it's so cool. Like the music, I remember the start scene when they're on top of the building. So many incredible iconic fight scenes. I also think of the tracking shot, Old So like fighting off all of these people in the hallway. Super iconic. There's actually many iconic scenes in this movie, but I'm gonna put it up in shocking. Not the most like I did watch this with someone for the first time a few months ago, and he was like, whoa, that was a lot, and I was like, meh. But yeah, very, very great film with a great twist, I would say, without spoiling anything. Incredibly shocking, powerful, great action scenes, a little bit over the top, bit of like a melodrama, but a very stylistic film as well. I think it's a great movie. If you like a bit of an action revenge film, you have to check this one out. It is incredible. Perfect Blue. I love this movie. It does remind me of, Black Swan is essentially a remake of this in its own way. So I would say Perfect Blue. I think I'm going to put Perfect Blue in dark commentary. Perfect Blue is an anime psychological thriller about a girl who starts losing her grip on reality when she's dealing with her fame and being stalked. And I just think it's devastating. It's a very devastating film. It moved me quite a bit, although I don't think it was uncomfortable, shocking, or traumatizing. And maybe some people might put it up the top for existential damage, but for me, I think I'm very comfortable with it going in dark commentary. But excellent film, definitely check it out. Promising Young Woman by Emerald Fennell. Wow, this one's her darkest movie, I would say. This movie is very interesting because it's about a woman who is traumatized by her friend's assault, then kind of takes revenge and seeks out predatory drunk men and has her way with them, I guess. And this film is super interesting to me because there is a bit of dark humor in it, and I think it is an exceptional film because throughout the film you're thinking, oh yeah, girl, get him, and it feels very justifying in a way for the pain that she is going through. This film is very good because it critiques rape culture, and it's incredible. I think it's
hot
an
take.
incredible...
I don't think we need to critique rape culture.
No.
I think we just, I don't know. I don't think we need to be like, actually, rape culture is bad. I don't know. I haven't seen the movie. I don't know if it's like, because like I think Under the Skin does it pretty well, or like what happens when the woman is the predator, but still, it's just not the same.
Yeah.
Film. It's also devastating. It made me cry again, and it also has a bit of dark humor, and it's a nice classic kind of revenge film, and it is quite shocking. I'm going to pop it up in shocking. Absolutely worth a watch. Incredibly powerful film and very thought-provoking. You will watch this movie and be like, oh my gosh, yeah, heartbreaking. And it also has Bo Burnham, so if you like Carey Mulligan and Bo Burnham, that's the movie for you. Oh god, Requiem for a Dream. I have only been able to watch this movie twice. It's too much. Yeah, I'm putting it up the top. Gosh, Requiem for a Dream, hey? Oh, this one's crazy. This is not my original thought, but I read somewhere that this is the best campaign for anti-drugs you can ever watch. Incredible movie. Incredibly dark. I loved Aronofsky, and it tells the story of 4 different friends.
Remember when I said
and
Happiness would probably be the disturbing movie that would be most like good to show somebody Requiem for a Dream. I didn't know it was on
They
there.
are intertwined, but it shows addiction in very different ways.
I don't think this movie...
It is incredibly
I think this movie
traumatizing.
is pretty normie safe, to be honest. Like, the, like, weird sex party at the end, sure, there's a scene there, but, like, it's not disturbing. It is like hard to watch. Like people don't want to watch movies for a bad time. They want to watch it for an escape.
Yeah.
And Requiem for a Dream is not that. So Requiem for a Dream is actually, like, even the name is a play on Raisin in the Sun. Are you familiar with Raisin in the Sun? So Raisin in the Sun is a classic Southern story about, like, the whole reason it's called Raisin in the Sun is because it's like, will they be able to live their dreams, or will they dry out like a raisin in the sun?
Okay.
And I don't know if Raisin in the Sun is also sad in the way that Requiem for a Dream is. I don't know if nobody accomplishes their dreams, but I think Happiness is also a lot like that. So I think it's interesting that I would say that both the movies I think are the most normie friendly are Raisin in the Sun style movies.
Interesting.
About aspirations and dreams and futures and things like that. But Oldboy as well. I don't think Oldboy... I think Perfect Blue is fine to show people who would be able to sit through an animated movie. Like, I think my mom would love Perfect Blue, for example. I don't know if she'd like Paprika, but I think she'd love Perfect Blue. Because, like, she loves, like, Silence of the Lambs and stuff, you know? Like, if you have somebody who likes movies like Silence of the Lambs, but not necessarily movies that are scary,
More the psycho thrillers.
Psycho thrillers.
Yeah, psychological thrillers.
Well, just yeah, more like that. Like depends on the movie, but I think Perfect Blue is pretty. I think it's pretty normie safe, just the same way that Silence of the Lambs is. Even all the ones in the D tier are pretty normie
Do you know
safe.
that infamous kind
Room
of
is normie safe as well.
with the music
It's just
and
a good
the
movie.
montage of all of them suffering at the end? The darkest film, honestly. One of the most devastating and darkest films I've ever seen. And yeah, it definitely deserves its place up the top. Breaks your heart. If you have had any experience.
My favorite score in any film.
Really?
There's this compilation of the Twin Tower attacks set to Requiem for a Dream.
Okay.
And like, damn, it was devastating. Like that was like something defining for me. Like I remember that moment and that soundtrack more than the movie itself. It's like before I had seen the movie.
This is with addiction or drugs, my goodness.
Have you heard the score?
Not an easy watch. I would not recommend this to everyone, but it is very powerful. Very powerful movie, very dark, but absolutely not for the faint of heart, this one. Oh, Room! Okay, I have only seen this movie once, and this movie just breaks your heart.
Yeah, just click around. It's a 4-minute song. Just click around. You'll see why it's good. It's basically a loop of the same thing.
Doesn't it? So this movie, Room, it tells a story about a woman and her son who live in an imprisoned small world by their captor, and they live in the shed, and the boy believes the room is just his entire world because he was born into that room. And oh gosh, this movie also makes me cry. It's about survival and trauma and recovery, and it is such a beautiful film. It is such a beautiful film. I would definitely say it is
This on a
uncomfortable.
9/11 compilation would do the trick.
Because I think that it has a lot to say. Very special in my heart. Oh God, Salo. Okay, so we have Salo. 120 Days of Sodom.
This is great.
The score? Yeah. Yeah. So that's most of the music in the movie is that. There's a few other scenes. They do, like, this Requiem for a Dream is so fucking good. They do these sequences where they do split screen.
Okay.
And it's like showing it's like split screen, but it's the eye perspective of each character and like what each character is focused on in the conversation, like where they're looking on the other person.
Okay.
Requiem for a Dream, on the other hand, is a movie that's good because of the editing.
Okay. Yeah, give me one.
And the TV.
Yeah. So that's just the first shot. I want the later sequence. This one is just called Requiem for a Dream Ode to Editing. This guy edits. This is a channel I'm subscribing to. Fuck yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
Of the scene, Reese and Sarah.
They're just doing the first scene. They're not even doing the scene I'm specifically looking for.
don't really like this movie. I mean, obviously a lot of people don't like it, and I understand what it's trying to say, I understand the commentary, but I kind of hate this movie. So this movie is about
Understandable.
Fascist elites who kidnap teenagers and subject them to 120 days of degradation and torture.
I thought we were still talking about Rome. Yeah, I don't think people should like this movie. I think they should understand what it's doing. That's why when you say things like irreversible, I love this movie. Get out. Get out of my house. You are not welcome in it anymore. Get out, Nosferatu. I found it.
You know, he...
Okay, so talk about great sex scenes in movies, right?
There are none.
No, this one.
Actually, no, that's a lie. Robots.
Also, The
World's
Room.
best sex scene.
You know something?
So, see, it's actually a split screen.
Interesting.
I always thought you were the most beautiful girl I ever seen.
You know, he
Like, see, then it like cuts to the fingertips. It's like her perspective touching,
split and to be
like the
combined,
senses.
And then we start, you know, I can't
right?
remember if the one where she's, you know, stuff wasn't, you know, I can't.
You're not looking.
I am fucking looking.
I looked over and you were literally looking down.
Uh-huh.
And some of the other
Object
stuff
permanence.
wasn't, you know, I can't remember if the one where she's, you know,
right, and then this one, she's trying to diet, and the fridge is like tempting her, and she keeps looking over at the fridge. Just great use of split screen, and I don't think any movie has really done it like it.
And this is Requiem for a Dream.
Shop when I was probably 12 or something, like walking around and like trying to not get caught being in like the horror sections and stuff. And I remember it had R and it said like warning, high impact violence. It was like this, in addition to the R rating, had like this intense warning thing. I'm pretty sure, I wouldn't be surprised if it were banned in Australia for a long time. But this is a movie that I guess...
It was banned in Australia multiple times.
in Australia for a long time. But this is a movie that I guess is a very political movie. It's horrifying. It's about power, dehumanization. I actually really hate this movie. I've seen it once. I don't need to see it again. It's awful. It's just... I get it. I understand what the director is trying to say. I understand the commentary. But I understand why it is so controversial. I think there are other movies now since then. Like, I know that people talk about this film as like the most messed up movie of all time. There are movies that are worse.
The director was killed for making it.
What the fuck?
Because it was so anti-fascist. It wasn't necessarily the movie. It was more of him as an anti-fascist, openly gay Italian in post-fascist Italy.
Yes.
But Pasolini is like so important for film history because like post-fascism Italy, like he's like the Michelangelo of post-fascism is Italy. Like most people probably haven't seen his films, but people who engage in film as like an art form, like somebody who would care about seeing a Michelangelo or a Da Vinci, you know?
Yes.
And that, in my opinion, that are harder to watch, but I just find it very exploitative. So...
see if there's any good video essays on Pablo Pasolini. I think there is one just about his murder that's really good. Yes, this movie, or this video is so good. But there's like a thing where it's like the history of cinema, like it's a whole like a series, like it's a high-end documentary.
Okay.
And they talk about Pasolini a lot in there because it does it era by era.
I mean, despite my feelings, I'm going to put it up in existential damage. I think there are other films and other ways that you can sort of express this kind of political
This is a
commentary.
high art
it's the
film.
same thing with a Serbian film, right? Like, I don't like that.
Fuck a Serbian film. We're not even it's not even on the same scale. This movie is overbroad. It, like, just because of some of the scenes in it, which really there's only one scene that's truly bad. Like, it's the fact that they're all supposed to be children being raped throughout the entire movie. It's like it doesn't really show that. You know? So there's plenty of awful scenes, but it's not like it. I mean, it does show it, but it's not. It's weirdly not like a focal point in a lot of it. Like, there's a lot of nudity and sex and things like that. Like, they have a contest to see who has the best butt, and they're like talking about how all the lights should be off, so we're not able to identify if it's male or female, so we can judge who has the best butt to rape and stuff.
Sure.
So, like, but, like, it's not like we're seeing, like, penetration type of stuff. Like, I think the rape in Irreversible is substantially worse than anything in 120 Days.
Yeah.
The issue is that there's a whole very long sequence where people eat shit, and that is what most people can't get through.
Issues with.
It's a hard block where most people tap out of the movie right at that point. I remember buying this, and my mom was like, "Oh, it sounds so interesting," because I was like talking about how important it was, and I'm like, "You don't want to watch it," and she's like, "Yes, I do," and then gets to the circle of shit, and she's like, "I'm done." Like, it is very well done.
That's great.
I think my laptop died.
That's fun.
Because it's not charging. 1 second.
I'll put something on. What do we got? So we got... Everything is too long. Added to the playlist. Ah, this is what I can put on. Hold on. Oh, I guess it needs to be on this one. Copy. Not sure if we're going to get into this one, but there's a little bit about China.
I hear.
Deserve it, rather than those saying the bigger...
Yeah.
Finally this week, some potentially good news for the Trump supporters who paid a $100 deposit for a Trump mobile phone. These were the ones announced by Don Jr. and Eric Trump last week.
Not that one.
Attack ads in the run-up to November's midterm elections.
I don't think about Americans' financial situation. I don't think about anybody.
That didn't sound good, but to be fair to President Trump, the context of that comment does matter.
To what extent are Americans' financial situations motivating you to make a deal?
Not even a little bit.
Okay. We need to make that a soundbite, first of all. But I think it's this part here.
1972, ending as it did more than 2 decades of frosty relations with the communist regime, US state visits to Beijing have taken on enormous too far. But first, there's more.
What did the president's meeting with Xi Jinping accomplish?
Good question. Our guest, the former US ambassador to China.
You got it back? Mm-hmm. Alright, we'll save it for later. I do want to watch it. Bing, bing. Where are you going, Mr. Builder?
I think there are other films and other ways that you can sort of express this kind of political commentary. It's the same thing with a Serbian film, right? Like,
No.
I don't like that movie.
It's
It's
not
disgusting. It's
the same.
gross. It's a very political film as well, but there's other ways to do it without such kind of an exploitative shock value factor. But it is a bit eerie that the director was assassinated, I think even before the film was released or just after.
Yes.
So, yeah. Interesting lore behind this film, and I think it deserves its place at the top. Snowtown. Okay, this one hits close to home. I used to own the DVD of this movie, don't ask me why, in high school.
Why?
It is based on a true story. It's about the relationship with a teenage boy and his stepfather, and his stepfather commits crimes, and we see the devastating impact of that on his life. And this movie is incredibly hard to watch. It portrays the low socioeconomic suburbs and towns of Adelaide in a very raw and gritty and realistic way. And the cinematography is really dark. The story's dark, and it's actually based on a true story. If you look up The Bodies in the Barrels, it's a very infamous, or Snowtown Murders, very infamous case in Australian history. The way that this is shot, this is an excellent film. But there are particular scenes in this that are really difficult. I would absolutely put this in traumatizing. I wouldn't recommend this to everyone. If you like, it's probably one of the darkest crime dramas that I've ever seen, and there's something about, I don't know if it's just because I'm Australian, but there's something about grittiness of this film. I think it's the color grading, the cinematography, the abuse, the grittiness, the realism of the characters. I need to research more about this film, but I truly, honestly feels like I'm watching a documentary. It is that realistic to me. The portrayal and the acting is just so incredible, so flawless to me. Yeah, very, very good film. Very difficult to watch. Okay, next we're on to Boy in the Striped Pajamas. I watched this when I was a kid. I watched this with my mum, and no shade to my mum, because we just love cinema, and we love a good war movie, and it's a drama, and I think it was PG, I don't know, but oh my gosh, this movie, I cry every time. I ugly cry when I watch this movie, and I understand it's not a perfect movie. I understand that it is quite controversial to some people.
Yeah, it's controversial because it makes light of the fucking Holocaust.
Boy in a concentration camp. It's about an innocent friendship that contrasts the horrors of what's actually happening. And I just think, and it's weird rating these movies that are, to do with war and real life things, but I mean, this tier list it's special. I would put it up in traumatizing. Yeah, I'd put it up in traumatizing. It also has Vera Farmiga. I love her. This movie is devastating, and I think because there's something about these movies that are told through the lens of a child that just have such an impact on me. Gosh, maybe don't put it in existential damage. No, it'll stay in traumatizing for now. I'm just looking at the other movies. I think it's going to stay in traumatizing. Devastating watch. Absolutely. I think it's a great movie, to be honest. It's very dark, and the horrors of war, and yeah, I cannot imagine. Yuck. We have The Coffee Table. Oh my gosh.
Spoilers!
And sad. Incredible performances, and just harrowing. Another harrowing film. Stanley Tucci as a serial killer. Come on.
Hey, that's a good cast.
He's so creepy. He plays the part so well. I always think about his performance here. And did you know, fun fact, I think Ryan Gosling was actually meant to play the lead originally, but he put on way too much weight and didn't tell the director.
Well,
and they were unhappy with that. So they had Stanley Tucci perform instead. Wow.
It's supposed to be Ryan Gosling,
when I compare to the other films, it's
too
so funny. You can't really
movie.
compare these films against each other.
They said, "Get out,
even
fatty."
in their own tiers, because they're just so unique. And what makes them hold their own level is so unique within itself that it can't be compared to others. I'm gonna say uncomfortable, because there are many scenes in this where I'm like, oh, it just makes me want to peel out of my skin. It's awful. Okay, we're getting there. I'm trying to smash through it because I feel like I'm going for such a long time. Okay, so we have The Nightingale. This movie is also set in Tasmania.
Tassie.
Represent. So this film is by Jennifer Kent. Very fantastic film. And I remember when it came out, I was actually studying film at university, and I remember hearing that so many people walked out. It was so messed up, and they were really unhappy with
Imagine
it. Imagine
walking out of a film.
It was
that wasn't
so
the Emoji Movie.
But really, I think the most disturbing parts of this film, and the reason why it's on this list, is because of a scene that happens towards the start of the film.
You mean the first movie shown in theaters in Saudi Arabia?
Was it really?
Yep.
What the fuck?
Hilarious bad movie fact, right? It's like the Master of Disguise 9/11 thing.
Yes. Very funny.
Film. And yes, it is horrific. I'm going to put it in shocking.
John Oliver's joke is like, which ironically is the target audience for the Emoji Movie. People who have never seen a movie before.
For me, because I think the rest of the film plays out in kind of a more milder tone, but I completely understand the scene towards the start of the movie. Colonial Tasmania. It's a revenge tale about an Irish convict. She's seeking revenge against the British soldiers who brutalized her family, and it's a revenge tale. It's set in Tassie, good old Tassie. I really enjoyed this movie. I only watched it once. I can understand why it's on the list, so I'm just going to put it in shocking. But for the rest of the movie, I think it's fine. If you can get through this particular brutal scene, while it is brutal, I think it's a good watch. Ooh, A Piano Teacher. Okay. Gosh, I love Isabelle Huppert. I watch everything that she is in. I think she is the most incredible actress. She's one of my favorite actresses of all time. I watch every movie that she's in because I'm afraid to take roles that are disturbing and controversial. So, The Piano Teacher tells a story about a repressed teacher who begins a destructive relationship with one of her students. It explores sexual obsession and emotional control and sexual shame around that and control. So, gosh, this movie is very interesting, and I like the way that it discusses these certain topics and the way that it handles it, and the acting is just incredible. I just love Isabelle Huppert. I could talk about it all night. So yeah, I'm putting that in uncomfy. All right, 13. I watched this when I was 13. Go figure. So this is about a well-behaved teenager, which is Evan Rachel Wood, and she falls into drugs and self-destruction when she befriends this girl, and it's just a commentary on adolescence and finding your own identity. But it does have some very dark themes, and the acting is just incredible. For these young actors like Evan Rachel Wood and Nikki Reed, like incredible. And actually Nikki Reed, I believe, helped write the script, co-writer, based on her own experiences. Incredible movie, and crazy that they were able to act at this age for these actresses. Is beyond, but it's not a watch for everyone. It's a very difficult watch. It's challenging. I would say it's kind of like a messed up coming of age movie. I'm gonna put it in traumatizing. Yeah, it really had a huge impact on me. I've seen it a few times. It's very dark. It's kind of your worst fear as a parent as well. I'm not a parent, but I can imagine watching this movie. You're like, and I was a bit rebellious in high school as well, but not to that extent, that's for sure. Okay. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Okay, so now we have Threads. This movie is actually a TV movie from Britain in the 80s, and it tells the story about an ordinary life in England.
Post-nuclear.
Is suddenly
it's one of the reasons why it scared the UK so bad. It was a TV film, so like everyone was able to watch it for free, right? So many people tuned into it, and it like affected nuclear policy and entered into the age where mutually assured destruction kind of like became taboo.
Epic.
But it also like is why nuclear is so taboo today, because of how exaggerated the movie is. Like there's like mutant babies and stuff.
Fascinating.
And and it goes through the devastating impacts of that and the effects. I've seen this movie once. I never wanted to watch it again. I found it so weird and so disturbing and incredibly uncomfortable. So I'm going to probably pop it up in traumatizing. I think it's traumatizing for a lot of people, and it was really shocking and scary for people in the 80s. But even now, I think it still holds up because of the fear of nuclear attack.
What about the pregnancy movie?
Even looming,
is that on here?
Closer
No, it's not
in present day. So I think it definitely holds up.
The one where she's pregnant in the house?
Definitely a devastating and scary watch about
Isn't that what she's doing?
Could the effects
No,
be
non-horror
if
is
this
what she's
actually
doing.
were to happen. So we need to talk about Kevin. This is another movie I also have on DVD for some reason, and I saw it in high school. All of these movies came out in a certain time. So this is about a mother who reflects on her troubled relationship with her son, and I guess the lead up to a horrific act of violence that he commits. And you know what? I really enjoyed this film. I also read the book. It's based on a novel that was very good. And Tilda Swinton and Ezra Miller's performance, I think it's his best in any film that I've ever seen. It is very...
Because he plays himself.
I keep saying the word harrowing. I need to
what a weirdo.
Use my vocabulary, but the whole film, I was on edge. It is disturbing, your heart's racing, it's upsetting, and it also, very dark film. I'm going to put it in dark commentary though, because I have seen, even though there is a disturbing, the whole movie is disturbing, the son's behavior is disturbing in itself. It will make you feel uncomfortable, I would say. But for me, dark commentary, absolutely, that's fine for me to put the film there. So next one, we have Zone of Interest. This movie is a fantastic film. Incredible film. If you have not watched it, please pause this video, watch it, come back. So this movie is about a commandant of Auschwitz and his family. They attempt to live an idyllic life, normal life, a domestic life just beside a concentration camp, and it's incredibly chilling and it portrays the banality of evil, and I just find this film exceptional. It is heartbreaking. I've cried. I've seen it a few times. And the way that this film was all about contrast, the contrast between the family just going about their day, living a normal life in the garden when the smoke of the chimneys of Auschwitz are in the background, and just pretending that everything's normal, having some level of normalcy, and it is just so bizarre. It's also based on a real family. Very, very important film. The story is beautifully executed and a very important one as well. So I'm going to probably put that up. Interesting though, because I wouldn't say it affected me so deeply like the other movies that I have in existential damage. I'm honestly going to put it in shocking. Because while it's not shocking in the same way that these other films might be, just the concept and just remembering what these people went through, and it wasn't that long ago, and what humans are capable of, and I can't even imagine close to what the reality of life would have been like back then, and just seeing this portrayal just kind of makes me sick. But yeah, very, very good film. I would say shocking. I think that's the right place. This one, Nothing Bad Can Happen, I'm putting it right up the top, baby. Oh God. This is about a deeply religious teenager who moves in with a family, a foster family, and then becomes subject to incredible, deep, horrific abuse. I would not recommend this film to everyone. I would only recommend it for the deepest or weirdest of minds who are okay and can cope with disturbing films and deeply upsetting and traumatizing subject matter. I personally don't ever want to watch this movie again. I don't know why it had such an impact on me, but I just can't handle it. It's a German film actually, but yeah, there is a particular scene. I made a quick video on this, but there is a particular scene with a chicken and bugs and a rotten chicken. I cannot get out of my mind because I think, I don't want to go into it, but I think maggots are some of the most disgusting things and one of my biggest fears. I hate it. I just have this panic, this fear, this disgust, and there's a certain scene with an old chicken that really got to me, and I was gagging. I actually was gagging. I was like, I couldn't watch it. I was like, I'm actually going to throw up. So yeah, I had a very visceral reaction to this movie. Absolutely not for the faint of heart. It is incredibly extreme, incredibly disturbing, incredibly traumatizing, upsetting, all of the things, all of the awful things, and it will go straight up the top of my list. Next we have The Treatment. This is a Belgian crime drama thriller. So this movie is the most. I've watched a lot of crime dramas. I've watched a lot of, detective thrillers, mysteries. This movie is the most traumatizing and disturbing crime drama I've ever seen in my entire life. And I've seen a lot. And this goes right up the top. This goes right in existential damage because I think about it all the time, unfortunately. I cannot get out of my head. I cannot unsee the things in this movie. Actually like a character study. Sense of humor about it that I just love. And I love the absurdity. I love the dark humor in Lars von Trier's films.
She liked it.
Honestly, it's probably one of my favorites.
Red Flags. Okay,
which movie? I missed the title.
Of course she would like House That Jack Built. She liked Irreversible, She likes terrible movies. Makes sense to me.
Get megalophobia from a game box. Steel Battalion, known in Japan as Tekken and internationally as That Game with the Giant Controller, is a 2002 mech combat game developed by Capcom and Dune Maker for the original Xbox. It's a legendarily enormous purpose-built controller, which itself is quite a collector's item. But it also, get this, is a video game. Yes, really, you can play it. There's stuff there. I think it's the coolest mech game ever made. The complete mech pilot fantasy made playable. But you wouldn't know that looking at YouTube because everybody just talks about how big the controller is. So, today we're gonna have a look at Steel Battalion, the video game. Okay, but we still gotta talk about that controller. The Steel Battalion experience starts not with the main menu, but with setting up this behemoth. Some call it the Mega Jockey 9000. Capcom calls it the Steel Battalion controller. Over 2.5 feet long and weighing 17 pounds, this absolute unit is so large that I can't physically fit it anywhere near my desk. If you have a $2,000 racing sim in your office, then I'm sure you're acclimated to this kind of thing. But for the rest of us, it's quite a hassle to get up and running.
I wish.
But what a controller it is.
That would be
2
fucking
sticks,
awesome.
3 pedals, 5 switches, a gear switcher, a comm style, another thumbstick, and several dozen other buttons just
a
for
motorbike
good measure.
sim that's
Sure,
just a
it's all
motorbike
plastic,
on a
but
tilting
you're not paying
thing.
Thrustmaster
That'd be
Warthog money
awesome.
here. Aside from the gear shifter needing some finesse to not slide the entire controller around, it all feels great. You can really feel that it's purpose-built for this game, which is good, considering it doesn't work for anything else. After you've spent an hour setting all that up, you're finally ready to read the manual! What, you didn't think you were qualified to play it yet, did you? Every copy of Steel Battalion came with a 35-page technical manual covering everything you'll ever need to know to operate a mech. And a lot of things you won't. This includes, but is not limited to, the history and military applications of mechs, the physical assembly and upkeep of said mechs, how to cold start your mech, every type of weapon, every single thing in every mech, your mech's what to do, fall over, what to do if your mech does catches on fire, how mission updates are related to release fuel tanks to reduce weight, how to contact mission command, and logistics of opening a resupply center. What to do if you're in the mech and you get hungry. So it's pretty extensive. If you're like me, you're gonna have a wonderful time reading through all this. If you didn't, well, you're probably not going to like Steel Battalion very much. But you can play it now, so let's do that. Here, let me just,
Most of the buttons are for startup, right? Amazing.
Yeah, there we go. We open on our character's first day of training when the base comes under attack. Our hero leaps into the cockpit of a mech in the hangar, valiantly saving the day with his knowledge from reading the manual. You did read the manual, right? The year is 2080, the island country of Hai Shidao, located here-ish, has withdrawn from the Pacific Rim forces and begun invading its neighbors. As a member of the PRC's 7th Special Panzer Division, it's your job to lay down the law mission by blowing everything up in a mech. A vertical tank. There's next to no narrative to speak of, and your objectives are generally straightforward. Go here, destroy that, clear however much of the enemy forces, that kind of thing. Some are full-on ground wars, but most are just you and a couple of squad mates. That all makes the game sound pretty simple. It is not. MOBA games classify Steel Battalion as an action, simulation, and strategy game. This is technically correct. The developers classify Steel Battalion as a piloting game, which is considerably more accurate. Underneath all the missions and combat and explosions, the real core gameplay loop of Steel Battalion is just operating your VT successfully. That comically insane number of buttons, the gauges and readouts all over the cockpit, the comms dial and the gear shifter with 7 positions, they aren't just there for show. You need those. You need all of those. The manual, which I really hope you did read because the game isn't going to tell you how to do anything, gives you all the information you need on paper, but putting it into practice is a long and very difficult learning curve. Becoming truly proficient and comfortable operating your VT is likely to take upwards of 10 hours. Aside from the sheer complexity of the controls, the main reason for this is that VTs are clumsy dumpsters. In canon, they're a recent invention. The Haishidao conflict is their first major combat use, and you can tell. What we're dealing with here is less Gundam and more Bob Semple tank with legs. And a railgun. Point is, we're not working with the best the future has to offer. These big lugs are fragile and slow to maneuver. They constantly guzzle fuel and have the battery capacity of a AAA. Their viewports are narrow and faulty, and when you turn too hard at high speeds, the PC-98 running the show has an aneurysm, the whole thing topples over in the middle of combat. The humble Vitz is such hot garbage that you don't even get color. So instead of launching yourself around like it's Armored Core, vertical tanks are best used as, well, tanks. But vertical? Despite your machine's heft, combat's often quick and decisive. Charging straight in generally isn't viable. You do have an evasive move, but it dumps your battery and takes some finesse to use effectively. You'll typically get Swiss cheesed as soon as you're in over your head. The smart move is to hang back and play it safe, scoping out which routes are less defended, engaging at a distance, and using buildings and terrain to pick fights on your own terms. When you can't, you need to strike hard and fast. A few good hits from a big enough gun is enough to knock over most VTs and leave them completely exposed. So if you can find an opening to force your way into, you can make yourself a solid foothold to work off of. Actually executing that, even once you're familiar with the controls, is much more complicated than it sounds. Control of your VT is extremely granular and not at all automated. Targeting is controlled separately from your view, which is controlled separately from your VT's facing direction. Different actions increase or decrease fuel consumption, and additional fuel tanks may be detached manually to reduce equipment load. You can cycle the HUD color for better visibility. Both sub-monitors have different display modes for different situations. Your cockpit camera can get dirty for any number of reasons and must be cleaned manually. And the cockpit might catch on fire. Higher-end VTs have target forecasting systems to adjust for travel time, but depending on how both you and your target are moving, they can be thrown off and make you whiff shots. Any incoming or outgoing communication must be switched to using the tuner dial, and, of course, every VT drives in manual, so get comfortable with that shifter. I absolutely love this. I've never played a game before where I had to plan my combat tactics around how physically complex to perform they are, and it's beyond satisfying to master the combat forklift. When you're late into the game and can confidently throw your hands and feet around the controller to make your VT do whatever you want, you really feel like you've earned that dexterity. That's why the controller is ultimately inseparable from the experience of Steel Battalion as a video game. Half the challenge is getting to grips with its bizarre input system. The other half is that the game would be extremely hard anyway. The second most famous thing about Steel Battalion is that it has permadeath. When your VT takes critical damage, you have about 3 seconds to press the big red eject button before it explodes, kills you, and your save is deleted.
Holy
immediately,
shit.
Just straight up. This is a terrifying prospect, considering a perfect playthrough can take over 8 hours, but in truth, it's not super likely to happen more than once or twice near the start. Once you have a feel for the game, it's pretty obvious when you're screwed, and you'll have no problem ejecting in time. The real threat, as always, is bankruptcy. Completing missions earns you supply points with some extra based on performance. You can use these to requisition new VTs and mid-mission resupplies, which you need to buy ahead of time. Mercifully, weapons are free. You can outfit your VT with any compatible equipment for no cost as long as you stay under the weight limit. The catch is that if something goes wrong and you need to eject, that VT is
this is the one that you've
and you
been
need to pay
playing,
up for a new one. They're expensive too. A successful mission can only cover the cost of 1 or 2 VTs that you actually want. And if you can't afford a new VT, you get demoted, everyone calls you a loser, save deleted.
I've never played this.
That will happen
What's
to
the
you
one that you played?
several times. In the end, I finished the game on Honkers the 5th. So, suffice it to say, the stakes are a little high. If you screw up, you can lose 6 hours of progress in the span of 10 seconds, which is enough to inspire complete paranoia. Letting your guard down is basically asking to be killed, and Steel Battalion is more than happy to oblige. If there's a door, you can bet that an enemy is behind it, and sometimes the Blackwater clown car will jump you in a back alley and you've got to hit the bricks. It gets mean with this stuff, though in a way that makes it kind of more manageable because you can just assume it's going to do the cruelest thing you can think of at any given moment and prepare accordingly. This means that Steel Battalion demands a very tactical playstyle. Paying close attention to briefings, thinking through your choice of loadout, and staying alert in the field is all but mandatory to get through the game at all. But it does hold up its end of the bargain. As brutally punishing as it can be, very few of my failures actually felt unwarranted. I didn't appreciate getting melted by a battleship, but I knew full well that it was my fault for tempting fate, which makes the whole permadeath thing sting a little less. This focus on strategy also softens the blow of starting over in another way. Once you've nailed down a solid approach to a mission and you have the skills to back it up, few of them are actually all that long or difficult, so you can make it back to where you were fairly quickly and with supply points to spare. All of this makes for gameplay that is incredibly stressful, but also compelling in a way I haven't really seen elsewhere. Beyond its, let's be real here, pretty awesome controller, I think Steel Battalion thinks very highly of the player. It holds astronomically high expectations of you, not just in tactics, but in mental focus and real-life physical dexterity, but it sets these confident in the knowledge that you can and will rise to them. If you couldn't, would you really be a mech pilot? That kind of tough love mentality isn't for everybody, but it's important to keep in mind what this game is and who it's for. In 2002, Steel Battalion cost $200 United States dollars, or $350 in today's money, which, when you know it, is about what I paid for it. I have a Patreon, oh god. The average person is not going to spend 2/3 the price of a console on one game, but a hardcore mecha enthusiast definitely might. That's a niche market that is willing to spend a very large amount of money on cool robots. So, you're Capcom, it's 2000, and you want to make the ultimate mech simulation game of all time, with a purpose-built controller the size of a small car. This is the only time anybody will ever do something that ridiculous, and you know it. So, what do? Well, you push it to the absolute limit. You cut no corners. You force the player to master both the mech and the controller, because if not now, then when? Not to mention, your audience is committed. If they're willing to drop that much money on the mech pilot fantasy, then being pushed to wring every ounce they can out of the machine and themselves is exactly what they want. That struggle is itself a part of the fantasy. We'll come back to that, but let's cool it for a minute and talk presentation. The word that comes to mind here is minimal. As I mentioned earlier, there is virtually no narrative to speak of. Aishidao is being bad, go beat them up. What little plot development exists in briefings in between missions is all the kind of dry military writing that's appropriate for a technical manual, but quite dull in the game. If you're willing to dive into the Japan-only guidebook, there's further details on the setting and Aishidao's president, but it's still nothing to write home about. Its complete absence in the game reflects how tangential it really is. The gold standard here is, of course, Ace Combat. Those games follow a very similar structure of telling their stories in briefings, debriefings, and occasional cutscenes between missions, but they do it with so much more flavor and character than Steel Battalion musters. Tonally, they don't quite align. Steel Battalion's obviously trying to be more grounded, but Ace Combat Zero later showed that such a narrative can work just fine that way. I don't think Steel Battalion's lack of narrative ambition detracts from what's there, and I'm not sure how well a more fleshed out story would mesh with the permadeath mechanics, but it's hard not to feel like it was a missed opportunity. Especially considering that the art design for the VTs is really cool. As mentioned earlier, this conflict is the first time they've ever seen large-scale deployment, and they really lean into the idea that you're basically driving the mech equivalent of a World War I tank. On the outside, they're very rugged and utilitarian, but then you peek inside the cockpit and it looks like half the dashboard was sourced from a used car dealership. They all use these big,
like
grainy
Fallout.
CRTs that visibly struggle to keep working when you push your VT to its limit, and the whole thing gives the impression that it could just break
I like
down
it
at any
because
time.
it
My
helps
favorite
with the
aspect of these
graphics
cockpits
of
is
the
that they
time.
get distinctly more
To make
advanced
it
with
like
each mech
it's a
generation. The first
heads
gen
up
cockpit
display.
just looks
Yeah.
terrible.
It
It's
helps with the
cramped, your
realism.
viewport's tiny,
They actually
the
have
HUD's
full
low resolution.
cabinets.
Your readouts are all these
Like an
industrial
arcade cabinet
gauges
people
and
have
analog
built.
light strips and
They've
built
backlit
entire machines
LCDs
just
that
for
remind
this
me
game.
of cheap watches.
That's awesome.
It totally smells like sweat in there. You step it up to second gen and it's immediately more advanced. The viewport is larger, the HUD is sharp, text keeps the 7-segment look, but it's all being displayed on proper screens. Some information, like the battery meter, is conveyed in a totally different format, which takes some time to adjust to. You won't get a 3rd gen VT until near the end of the game, but when you do, it finally begins to resemble the kinds of interfaces you see in more traditional depictions of mechs. The viewport's massive, and a lot of what used to be displayed physically is now a part of the HUD. The font is sleek, and no analog gauges remain, replaced with digital ones that are more appropriate for the degree of power the 3rd gens bring. It really
This one right here. It's sick. It's like a little, like, he made it inside like a safe.
Mm.
Like a hard box. Isn't that sick?
It is pretty cool. It's like a arcade machine.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is people have made specific
I
cabinets.
love my favorite part about this picture is the dog shit office chair. That's great.
Mm-hmm. Well, what else
Like,
would be?
Literally
What else
anything.
would the military be giving you?
That's true. That would be what they gave you.
impression that what we're seeing here is a developmental precursor to the classic mecha style rather than a strictly realistic vision of what mechs could one day look like. Obviously, by 2002, we knew we probably weren't going to be putting CRTs in mechs 80 years down the line, but positioned as a prototype for the futuristic design motifs of its inspiration, it feels strikingly authentic. If you extrapolate this progression out another handful of generations, it's easy to picture it landing on something resembling a Gundam cockpit. On a technical level, the visuals are simple, but fine. It plays it safe with fairly plain environments, but there's more going on here than you might initially notice, or be able to perceive with YouTube compression. The developers took advantage of the Xbox's GPU horsepower to pull off some nice visual effects for the time, though their implementation is pretty subtle. The CRTs have a convincing graininess to them, and objects near your VT's cameras, like your weapons, get a bit of depth of field blur applied. It's so discreet that I didn't even notice it for a while, but it's a surprisingly tasteful use of it for the time, and it helps the game's visuals hold up decently well. It's not perfect, though. The render distance is glaringly short across the board. It doesn't really affect gameplay because your minimap's enough to get around, but the environments just look weird sometimes because of it. As for the soundtrack, there is no soundtrack. Okay,
Realistic.
that's not strictly true. There's nice enough music in the menus and cutscenes, but they're 22 kilohertz and they don't sound great. In gameplay, there's no music at all, but if you want, you can buy a boombox and shove it into your cockpit to play the world's most comically low-quality tapes.
That's awesome.
Sorry, I'm getting a little interference. What'd you say? Not that you'd really want to anyway. We're going for realism here. The game wants you locked in at all times, so the sound design takes center stage instead. And that's really good!
I would just play a speaker. Music through a speaker. Exactly like you would in game, except real.
VT sound appropriately hefty with big, satisfying stomps and chunky mechanical sounds for everything you do, while gunfire and explosions have this delightfully bassy rumble to them. It's good enough that I never really lamented the absence of a soundtrack, especially since the most climactic moments already sound like you're in a tumble dryer full of hand grenades. But the controller is what really brings the presentation together, though it's in a way it's hard to convey through video. On the surface level, it's big and it lights up, and that's obviously pretty cool. It's the effect that it has when you're in the pilot seat that's more difficult to articulate. I feel like just showing straight gameplay capture of Steel Battalion doesn't quite do justice to what it actually looks like to play the game. This controller is so ludicrously large that it becomes a visual aspect of the game in and of itself, extending the cockpit out of the game and into real space. It lends more physicality to the virtual side just by association. And that's where we get into the tactile aspect of it. I'd wager that the third most famous thing about Steel Battalion is the startup sequence. Every mission begins with a little song and dance to get your mech up and running. It's a simple process, trivial to execute as long as you've read the manual. So why include it? Well, the official guidebook can tell us.
Close the hatch and press the ignition button. Flip on the toggle switches one by one. You have to do this every time you sortie. Additionally, these buttons and switches are only used when starting the VT. Modern games would simply skip these small steps and put you straight into the action. However, this concept is not allowed in Techie. These operations are a vital ritual to actually become a pilot. What is Techie? It's what the creators wanted to make and the players thought would make an awesome game. This game lies somewhere in the middle of the creator's vision and the player's fantasies.
What Steel Battalion aims for, and what I've never seen another game aim for, is the complete eradication of abstraction. Okay, this is gonna get a little esoteric for a second, so just bear with me. In your average game, control is totally abstracted. Let's take, I don't know, Mechassault, for example. This game uses a very standard control scheme. You play it with the regular Xbox controller, the left stick moves you relative to the camera's orientation, the right stick rotates the camera, and the mech always faces where you're looking. Your controls direct the mech's general actions as they pertain to gameplay, moving, aiming, shooting, and so on, but it's obviously assumed that piloting the mech doesn't actually work that way in-universe. I mean, it's Battletech, so it definitely doesn't. That's to say that these controls are abstracted. They don't directly equate to anything in a fictional sense. If we move up the chain of realism, we can get closer, but never quite there. Arma gives you very fine control over your character's actions, but pressing the C key is obviously still nothing like the actual action of crouching. Okay, then VR games. These definitely get closer. To crouch, you literally have to crouch, but some abstraction is necessary just due to the limits of physical reality. The shape and texture of the controllers in your hands can't change according to the thing you're holding, nor can you actually walk into infinite distance within the confines of your bedroom. It's getting there, but it still needs a layer of abstraction for anything that isn't contrived to match reality. But the logical conclusion is to spend thousands of dollars constructing a painstaking recreation of an A-10 cockpit in your garage, which...
Who likes poles?
Alright, you got me there. But for everyone else, you're stuck using a consumer hotels for flight sims, and they're not going to be anywhere near the control setup of an actual plane. What sets Steel Battalion apart is that in the game, the manual, the promotional material, everything, the controller is treated as a complete and literal one-to-one representation of the controls of a VT. If you got stomped on by Vitskun, isekai into Haishi Dao, conscripted into the PRF, and dropped into a decider for the beach landing, it would operate completely identically to playing Mission 1 of Steel Battalion. And that is the magic of the startup sequence. From the moment you lower the
Alexander
cockpit and flick
waged
those
war on
switches,
Saladin.
you are engrossed in the mech pilot fantasy in its purest form.
I was
You
like, why are
become
these
the pilot.
units now-
The way the targeting stick doesn't recenter itself, the weight of the pedals,
For
the
Alexander,
feels, the comms dial
he levied
clicks from
them.
position to position. All of it is precisely and comprehensively what
You
it
should
is
take
like to
Mecha.
pilot a VT. Who's to say otherwise? They invented them, and it all feels just heavy enough, just difficult enough,
The
just
fact they got
real
capital
enough
games.
for you to believe them when they
Like
say
the first
it really
one sold
doesn't
enough
work
that they
this
were
way.
able to make two
It
is
is
insane.
impeccably immersive.
Yes.
I've played a lot of games, like really a lot of games. And few have ever managed to feel so completely enthralling as Steel Battalion does. And it just couldn't have achieved this without the controller, without being so outwardly excessive as it is. It bothers me when I see people just regard it as being big and gimmicky and nothing more. I mean, I get it, it is really big, and that's clearly more intuitive than a philosophical rant about control abstraction, but after playing the game, I think its size is the least interesting thing about it. So, is Steel Battalion secretly a flawless video game? No. No, it is not. While the controller is a massive flex, it's not hard to tell that the budget for the game itself wasn't especially high. Cutscenes are sparse with basic presentation, briefings don't have voice acting, and what little there is sounds like they just grabbed whoever was in the office at the time and called it a day. And the dialogue at the end of every mission gets cut off every time, and that annoys me more than it probably should. Most environments look alright, but every now and then you get dropped into the hype mappiest hype maps that ever hype mapped. On the gameplay side, the friendly AI is beyond helpless. It's a good thing that their health is inflated to the moon because they couldn't navigate their way out of a cardboard box, let alone survive combat. You have to accept that you're going to be doing everything yourself and just leave them be. If you're lucky, they'll draw some fire, and if you're not, you'll be stuck in a traffic jam. But the biggest issue, by far, is performance. You know, Steel Battalion was originally going to be a PS2 game. I shudder to think what that would look like, because the Xbox is a lot more powerful and the game still barely runs. I can live with the draw distance being short, but the frame rate is just a bridge too far. The problem isn't lag, it's slowdown. On urban maps, it's not uncommon to spend half the mission in bullet time. You can even feel the lurch in game speed to go in and out of areas it's struggling with.
Third one,
in some sense, it's kind of helpful, because the game dropping to 20 FPS means you're wrangling the controls 50% faster than usual, but that sure doesn't help the immersion. Missions in the capital city especially can be a slog to play because of this. Once you finish the offensive and hit the credits, you unlock a second campaign set in 2082. This is mainly a remix of the first campaign's missions, with a few entirely new ones tossed in. You can start a character straight from the second campaign once you've unlocked it, but without having ranked up to the first campaign, you won't be able to use 3rd gen VTs. Having gotten my teeth kicked in by the first campaign, I expected this one to be a lot harder, but while the missions are technically more difficult, I think it's ultimately the easier of the two. Part of it's that you have a solid VT roster from the get-go, and the early missions are still easy enough that you can just kind of blow straight through them. At this stage, just needing to clear enemies isn't that much of a challenge, especially since the weak VTs and early missions can't put up that much of a fight against the Gen 2. The port mission's a tough nut to crack the first time around, but in 2082, you can pretty much just flatten everything with the railgun. The biggest factor, though, is that the learning curve for the controls is already behind you. If you're comfortable piloting a VT, no mission the game can throw at you is beyond what you're capable of.
Experience.
In
I
that
do
regard,
all the work.
The second campaign feels like
and
a nice
just fucking
victory lap,
cherry
and I was
it
able
in.
to clear it on my first go. What definitely doesn't help is your new squad. The 2082 campaign's biggest mechanical addition is that you've become the leader of X-Ray Platoon, a pair of bumbling toddlers and mechs whose only purpose in life is bugging you on the radio. You issue commands to them using the comms panel, but for some reason you have to pick 2 of the 4 commands to be able to use ahead of time. The controller has 5 comms buttons, and 3 of them are permanently bound to specific functions regardless of who you're talking to. 2 of them are useless when talking to your squad mates, so this is a strange limitation. It'd probably be annoying if they weren't totally useless either way. Hilariously, this means that when your squad mates are either critically damaged and need to disengage, you're probably incapable of letting them do so. I'm sure they'll be fine. Who's that calling on the telephone?
Hello, who?
I see! The last mission's a gauntlet as you raid Haishi Dao's last citadel. It's a real test with the most well-defended exterior in the game, followed by tight interior passages packed with just truly obscene numbers of enemies. In the end, you face off with this, like, mecha sphinx, which is fiddly to damage, but it has such bad mobility that it's ultimately not too threatening. I'm not sure why you
talk
fight
about a game
kind of
that
ancient
deserves
temple,
like an
but,
actual
sure,
fan remaster.
And as
you know?
I slumped back
Yeah,
in my
no
chair
shit.
while the credits rolled for the final time, I got a notification from my bank pointing out that I spent more than usual last month. I couldn't imagine a more appropriate conclusion. Steel Battalion is awesome. It's not perfect, but it fulfills the mech pilot fantasy in a way nothing else ever has, and as ostentatious as the controller seems, I don't think it'd be so effective without it. For me, the game is an easy recommendation for any mech fan if you can play it. That's obviously a big if. You're going to be spending upwards of $300 for the controller, or even more if you don't already have an Xbox, and you've got to be a pretty specific kind of person to be up for that. Within a few years, I'm sure emulating the game with keyboard and mouse controls is going to become fairly accessible, but
it'll still be an emulation
really
of a
the real
game
physical
that
controller is an inseparable
should be-
part of the experience. Trying to make do with anything less is like trying to play a sim racer with the arrow keys. That's just the nature of the beast. I don't have a solution for it. The series did continue after this first
You know what's
installment.
crazy?
Multiplayer was
My
initially
mate
planned for Steel
does a
Battalion,
rally
and while it was
sim
cut early
racer
in development, the team returned to the
with
idea
the
of
arrow
the game
keys.
shift.
Do that.
The result was Steel Battalion
Insane.
Line of Contact, a
Oh, with the
multiplayer
arrow
only
keys?
spin-off
That's-
released in
with the
2004
arrow
alongside
keys.
a second run of the
And
original
he's
set.
good at it.
But that's a can of
I
worms
guess
I
really
will
when
be
you have to
opening
make
some
do.
other time. 8 years later,
It's
we got
fucking
Steel
crazy.
Battalion
No,
Heavy Armor,
it's literally
which is
by choice. I guess he just learned that
Kinect
way.
Game developed by
And that's just how he does it.
FromSoft.
It's fucking nuts.
Don't look
Two
forward
hands
to
on
that
the
one
keyboard.
so much.
Crazy.
Will we ever see the return of Steel Battalion? No, we won't. I mean, come on, seriously? Physical game sales in general are dying out, let alone ones with comically large peripherals that only work for one specific series. At best, I could maybe,
It's almost over.
maybe see them releasing an entry
No,
to
I need
VR
to make a
platforms.
point.
And while that would be
Okay,
pretty sick and
just
someone
talk
should
over
totally
it.
do
It's
it,
gonna
it
be
would
over
still lack
anyway.
the physicality that makes the original work so well. That's kind of a
It's-
bummer, but at the end of the
They're
day,
not dying out. They're being killed.
If I pause, this just might as well end the video.
Not at all. The physical game sales aren't dying. They're literally being killed. Like, the amount of games that you can buy physically now is fucking tiny. I've been trying to buy physical games, and it's nearly impossible to find certain games. And they're all online and never get discounted. It's awesome. And that's what we're going to be left with, because people have not protested them doing this. And as a result, physical games are being killed off for profit, because it's more profitable to have people buy digital copies of games that they can just revoke at any time. It's not your game.
Well, it
It's
also
a right.
costs to produce and stock physical copies.
Yeah, so why are games more expensive than ever when we can't buy physical copies? Doesn't make sense,
Because they're
does it?
not drugs.
But if there's no physical copies, there's no printing issues, there's no disc acquisitions, there's no making of the covers, there's no printing of the papers, there's none of this. So they should be theoretically cheaper. Because in theory, some of that cost is the stocking and the packaging cost. Not the development of the actual product, which is the video game. But you don't buy that video game. If they pull that video game, they can take it from your library. They've done it with multiple games already. There are some games that have had their support pulled because they're online, like terminally online games. And these terminally online games don't have enough players, but they have a small player base that loves the game. Well, those guys will get fucked.
I've found that when I have physical copies, they find a way of me not owning them anyway. Because people come over and steal my shit to sell for drugs and stuff. Like, all the physical stuff that I had has been, like, destroyed.
Yeah. No, this is... It's actually funny. I looked this up, and that's actually true. If you account for inflation, the video games are actually about the same price as they've always been. But my argument still goes to the physical copies. If there's less or no physical copies, why are the games still the same price? If there's no shipping cost, it's just a download cost, where's the cost coming from? Especially when you're playing with the Game Pass, I bet you there's fucking billions coming in from the Game Passes. That should make games cheaper, because they're more accessible, and buying the game is a less desirable thing, I guess. So they should be cheaper to incentivize people to buy the physical games. Unless they're keeping them high to motivate people not to buy physical copies. As I said, they're being killed. It's not dying. It is a policy choice from the companies to kill physical games. They should be cheaper. And that I feel like that's pretty basic economics, right? If the demand is low, prices are low. It's not like the game's a premium product. Sure. Like the brand recognition, sure. I mean, that could be an argument. But in that argument, Xbox is more popular than PlayStation. Why is the PlayStation far more expensive than the Xbox? PlayStation should want it cheaper to challenge the Xbox and sell more units. Instead, they raised the price. Just because they're stupid fucking capitalists. You know, they don't actually understand economics. Right? If I was a company like Sony and I saw that Xbox had this excellent Game Pass, been snatching up companies, you know, monopolizing the market, and then this new CEO comes in, actually listens to people, gives people what they want. Xbox is even more popular now, and it's growing. Xbox is a growing market.
Xbox turn off.
Like it is a growing market, and PlayStation is not dropping their prices. They're not doing crossovers. They're
Siri,
not
enter blowjob mode.
They're not trying to get people over for some fucking reason. It doesn't make sense. Nintendo is the same thing. They're like, we're Nintendo. Fuck you. Why is Donkey Kong $120? Get fucked. Why is Mario Kart $130? Fuck you. It's a fucking kart sim. Fuck you. On top of that, it's Mario Kart, the inferior karting game. Fight me. Crash Team Racing is better. And Crash Team Racing can be bought with Spyro and Crash. That's a much better option.
I'm just glad Steel Battalion got to exist in the first place. It's a singularly unique game in a way that could only have been achieved in the time it was made, and it's never really gotten the credit it deserves for that. So next time you see someone bask in the spectacle of the Mega Jockey 9000, go ahead and join them. But make sure they know that Steel Battalion isn't just a controller.
It's an experience. See, I told you there was no point
Welcome to the
pause.
Credits Q&A. If you want to ask a question here, you can do so by supporting me on Patreon or YouTube to help.
Motherfuckers cleared it anyway. A builder. Boop. That one.
All right.
Wild
Shut stuff down.
field. Huh?
Shut everything down.
Okay. Bye.